All right, for people who are watching on Zoom, we'll start in a minute. We were just giving our consent applicants a couple extra minutes to see if anyone would show up.
So, right, so this is the consent item, the consent calendar for the meeting of February the 3rd. And the item, look at so 154 Valdivia Drive in the Florida. So that's Pierce edition. Here we go. Is the applicant here?
I'm here.
Divina Lustado?
No, I'm Shelley Pierce, the owner.
Okay, so that's can we go to the new elevations? Yeah, this is that. So we had three comments and say that again. I'm on, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what happened to the post? There was a question to restudy that post that seems to be I don't know, holding something. I'm not sure what. What did you do?
So if you look, there's a rendering. It should be, let's see, there. So what, as you can see, the roof line is extended over like a patio. And part of what we wanted to accomplish is we didn't want the roof all the way over that area because it would block the light into the kitchen and into the bathrooms. So we're trying to go with the feel of like an open patio. And we, the owners, actually really like that look and feel, like of the post and those roof overhangs open like that. So we're presenting you with the rendering of what it is, but we didn't actually want to get rid of the post as the owners.
Well, you know, we don't really look at the accessory dwelling units, which is the unit above. The only reason, because you're also adding to the first floor. By the way, where was the garage in this house? Was it converted previously?
Correct. It was converted into the 90s into like a small sort of ADU family room type unit.
Legalizing that work as well, or that it's already a legal project?
Can you say that again? I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
Sorry, yeah, that work that converted, the previously converted garage, was that, yeah, was that legalized does it have a permit?
It has a permit to be converted into a family room from the owners before the owners that we bought it from, somewhere.
Can you go to the floor plans? The existing floor, go up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So now what you're doing, you're converting the second garage, or what is it?
So what we're doing is, because we want a garage back, we don't actually want, we want a garage. Like, we are a family of 5 people and we need places to put our bikes and stuff like that. So, and we want my mother to come live with us in the ADU. So that space of the original garage is very small. So in order to get the garage back to fit the staircase and make an ADU where my mom can actually have an actual bedroom, we just needed to push it out a little. So it's only that 8.5 feet or whatever that it's getting extended.
Yeah, so the question with the post is like, what exactly is it? You know, if you can go back to the elevations or the rendering.
It's just supporting the roof structure, those roof overhangs.
I don't know if it's part of the ADU. It seems like if we take a look at it, we would not approve something like that. We would like to have a little porch next to the garage door. I know you have a bathroom window that kind of gets in the way, but that
And that's
yeah.
actually the kitchen window in the front entryway. So we don't really want to make that dark and
well, maybe you can keep it. You can keep a like, but right now you have the entry is so hidden is in the hole and that post in there is we don't pay much attention to ADUs, but the idea is to make it blend with existing residents, right? Like this just to not make a big deal and this design it's as far as the first floor I'm having issues with that. Maybe maybe we can take it to the full board perhaps. Would that be a way to continue this? I have a hard time approving this. So what we'll do is we'll see it first time on the agenda when we meet in a few minutes, okay?
sure.
Thank you. That concludes the consent calendar. Hey, John.
Okay, it appears we have a quorum, so we will now call to order the S-Bar meeting of February 3rd, 2023, beginning with item number 1, which is public comment. If there's anyone that would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda for today, then please step forward or raise your hand, please.
We do have one hand. This is Gene Turner.
Hi, this is Jean Turner. I just wanted to make sure that my setup was working correctly. I'm actually here for the Verizon project on Camino Lindo, Sabata Tarde.
It is working.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else, moving on to item number 2, the agenda status report.
So our only change to the agenda today was we received a request for continuance for item C2. That was it.
Okay, thank you, David. Item 3, the minutes of January 20th. January 20th, yeah, which says 2022, but it should say 2023.
Break room centerpiece to reduce massing. And then on bottom, it gets us study lowering plate heights to reduce massing. Should we let it go with that, or we're saying it twice? It doesn't matter. Huh?
So just I hate to interrupt. So we're doing this. Yeah, just make sure you're on the mic. Sorry, it's new.
Oh, we got something new here.
Yeah. So those two could be combined. P
Well,
and
but-
G.
Is it necessary?
Yes,
So it's more than one place.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's,
okay.
there's very high plate heights that
Okay.
could be looked at in addition to
Okay.
lowering that centerpiece. So, but we could combine those two. Reduce height of great wood centerpiece to reduce massing and study lowering plate heights in general. Okay.
Hi, David. This is Joe. I just wanted to jump in and say I'm having a really hard time hearing the comments.
Can you hear this better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Oh, okay. So
And
if you want to
and
come,
David, did you want me to be updating the minutes, or are you doing that on the screen?
I was not, but I can if you like.
Yeah, Joe,
Oh
typically.
no, it's okay.
Yeah, typically Alex.
I've got them up.
Said, study reducing, height of great room and lowering plate heights to reduce massing.
okay,
I, let's just let it go.
leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't worry, Joe, leave it as it is.
So can we just real quick? So have there been any changes on item 2?
No,
Okay,
I think just put those
thank you.
together in the same comment.
well,
there-
it almost works better with them separate.
Let's keep them separate.
Yeah. just leave it.
It's just strange having them like broadcast. Anyway, let's keep moving. Item 3.
Should we go to 5? Yeah, because I think 4 is pretty well. It's all right.
Yeah, we won't be able to hear you, John. We need a mic about 6 inches from your face.
Pick that up. I'm sure that guy's got a master's degree.
Yeah, a misspelling on G on columns appear weak. That's just the spelling. Guys, it doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to convey our thoughts. So I think item A needs a little bit of help. Fenestration needs coordination. Balconies are more successful than small windows, something like that. Because the comment was about the fenestration in general.
Mhm.
And this is a large project too, with a lot of windows and so forth. Okay, maybe you can put B first and A second.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, so we're putting comment B first, and then A moves down. Was there a change to comment A?
Let's just leave it alone then. I think that works.
Anything else?
Yeah, I guess it's okay.
Mhm.
Okay, next.
Okay, with 6, right?
Anything on 7?
on 8, I think it's important to B, I think we need to be a little bit more clear. Is a setback acceptable or not? Because we're saying that appears acceptable. I think this is going to a modification officer, right? Yeah, I think, I think, I think we need to be more clear. We need
Rather
to-
than, yeah, could be.
Setback modification for pool is acceptable.
Yeah,
I mean, we need to figure out one way or the other.
yeah.
I cannot say appears acceptable.
Okay, I've got that update.
About 9. The same on B, modification is minor in nature and acceptable.
Alex, that was kind of hard to hear again. Did you just say modification is minor?
Yeah, instead of appears, I say is minor in nature and acceptable.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And D, we mean to say, clarify the design of the fence. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it was very raw wood, looked really bad. And unfinished.
Also,
So as part of the project,
okay, clarify the
Yeah.
finish on the fence.
yeah.
Clarify the finish on the fence.
Okay, how about 10? Right?
Yeah.
And make a motion to approve the revised minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I guess one abstention, two abstentions, but we can still vote to approve, right? Okay,
Sorry,
Wait,
I had to learn how to speak on the mic again too.
yeah,
So we should probably wait for the same reason we did that for when we were reviewing the low minutes.
wait, isn't it like, the rules of order is like, we have a quorum. They abstain. 3-0 carries it, is that right?
I think so.
Okay, well, anyway, we will continue if you want, but I think the rules.
Let's return to them and say, see someone returns.
Okay, so really it's just Josh, and so, let's see, Joe, it appears it's gonna take us a little bit to get used to these microphones, so if you can let us know throughout the meeting if we're having trouble hearing, that would be helpful for everyone's benefit. And then Val.
Yeah, that works for me. It has been difficult so far. If I need to go down to the hearing room at a certain point, I may have to do that. So we'll see.
Haley's not here today. Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I
So,
think it would just be better if everyone had their own mic.
yeah. I don't think so. I think you just have to be close to it. And I think if you're off to the side like this, I don't think it works. I think you have to be directly on. Okay,
Yeah, that was all much better. I could hear that very clearly.
okay. Thank you very much. So instead of moving on, since Josh is here, let's go ahead and vote on the consent or the minutes, revisions to the minutes.
We had a motion by Alex and a second by Valerie.
To approve the amended minutes for January 20th. So all those in favor
Aye.
and 2 abstentions. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 4, SBAR members informational briefings.
I have two minor announcements. Well, one is that I've been attending the airport design meetings, and the project is, well, we haven't done much progress, but the process is going on. And we'll, they're extending the airport, right? It's a major enlargement of the airport, and we'll see the drawings sooner or later.
Okay.
The second one is I just wanted to remind staff about the size of files. It's something that we've been talking for almost a year now. And once in a while, we still get these enormous files. And I just don't understand. There is usually programs have like a feature reduce size PDF, and the sizes go down dramatically. If maybe staff can do that, can accept a PDF from an applicant, reduce it in size and put it in the box. I don't know. I'm just saying one more time, it's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, so just reminders to the planners to make sure we're somewhere around 15 megabytes for PDF files when they go into the box. I had a couple announcements also. I was called out to the Evans Street overpass in Summerlin because they installed the facade on the side of the bridge and it came out pinker than they had hoped. So we had a meeting of the minds and about 8 people from Caltrans and Chris Schmuckel, planner. And so we all looked at it, we drove around and it was determined that it is a little pink, but it should fade out over time and lose some of that rose color. So rather than delay the project and, require further closures and probably a couple $1 million to redo it, we're just going to leave it as is. And one of the solutions maybe was to increase the planting in front of that. So if you get a chance and you're driving by, just take a look. You can actually see it from the 101 at the top of that the hill where you're looking out to the ocean as you drop in to going south on Evans. And we also looked at the middle barrier, and it was integral color concrete, and they were still scheduled to paint 3 different colors on it. And we looked at it and it would just be too busy. So we decided we'll just leave it as is because it has a texture to it. All is well, but I just wanted to pass on that.
By the chance, you get a chance to look at the glass barrier, sound barrier on the glass sound barrier. Yeah, it doesn't look so good, right?
It's not great. Yeah. But it's not very reflective. I think it's just not. And that was special request, if I recall, by Summerlin residents.
That whole community there, the
Yeah.
Summerlin cottages.
It sounds like it goes
requested.
so awkward. The design is just.
Yeah. And again, there will be planting there to help soften that eventually too. Another second item that I have was, I don't know what it's called, but the housing element. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I was contacted by Ms. Plowman and she just wanted to keep us in the loop that we may end up, these are the multifamily housing projects and they will not require design review apparently, but some are fighting to include a little bit of design review so that we don't end up with sort of monstrosities. But it's I'm trying to search for the word, but we may see some of those in the future.
Isn't there like an objective design standards?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the city has it. The city, I'm not sure exactly. They had a full thing for EPV for the downtown, and then they were struggling because it was much more difficult to do it for the rest of the city. And I wonder what the county will do. It will do like different areas will have different standards and what.
Yeah. So the planning commission passed those standards, and so we don't know what that's going to look like for us yet. But just to be aware that it may come up at some point.
And if you like, I can forward you the information that was approved by the planning commission, then subsequently by the board for informational purposes.
Yeah. So just FYI. Okay. Anything else for members or 4 members? Okay. Moving on to staff update. I know we've lost Alex Tuttle And Joe Dargle is back with us. I don't know for how long, but Joe, maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yes, so I am back. Alex has shifted over to long range planning, and I am backfilling for him. So I'm planning on being back with you guys for the long haul. So no plans to change that up again anytime soon. So nice to be back with everybody. And just to follow up on that last item, that's pretty much the one thing I was going to just chat briefly about today was the objective design standards that were taken to the board. I think it was last week. So that was recently approved. And so that is going to kind of impact multifamily housing development projects going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. Welcome back. Good to have you. And I know that Josh will not be here at the next meeting. Is there anyone else that knows Val? So that's two. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's a short one because I think I have to leave early that day, potentially, or by a reasonable time. So keep it light, David. All right, here we go. So the consent agenda was approved. So basically we're moving on.
We need to review the item C3.
Oh, right.
This, if you can put it on the agenda, this is an item that it was brought to the consent calendar. It's an accessory dwelling unit, a second story, and the reason we are looking at it is because it adds a first floor element. And the comment we had last time was we had comments about that post, and you can see it on plan too. I thought it was awkward, and I don't see any reason why it should be there. And anyway, I think the applicant wants to retain it, so I'll leave it to the rest of the board to make a judgment.
Yeah. So I think it was a good idea, Alex, to bring this to the full board. So we look for comments from the rest of the board regarding, I think this was here for final.
Well, yes, it had a.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's for final approval. You may want to go through the slides, perhaps. Now that's the existing house and the existing plan, and the addition on the front, and the first floor, and that's the elevations. And we're not looking at the second floor, basically, at least at the ADU. I'm not sure if we're supposed to look at the rest, the overhang or not, but anyway, we're not. So I leave it up to you.
Can I make an additional comment?
Sure, go ahead.
You scroll down to the existing photos. So if you look at that, let me think, that middle one, the number 2. So you can see that we have a berm in front of our house. And so the post is actually going to be in the berm in line with the post at the edge of the wall of the driveway. So if it's not in the rendering, and I regret not having them put that in the rendering because it sort of makes this line, right? Like, so the post is actually there and the post is actually in the berm. It's not in the driveway. It's in something that it's not in the way of anything, something we have to walk around already. So I just wanted to add that in there.
I think our concern is that the post is undersized for what it's trying to do. It looks kind of like a toothpick going up 2 stories. So it's not an aesthetic solution to the problem.
It's also a very odd architectural element.
Yeah, to be sitting next to the overhang of the 1-story roof next to it.
Yeah, and I think we haven't done the full structural engineering, obviously, because we want to get approval, but I feel like the post is supposed to be thicker on the bottom. And we were looking at like cost structures because the ADUs, my mother is paying for the ADU with her retirement savings. So we're trying to do it for as reasonable of a cost as possible in Santa Barbara, which, you know, can be frustrating. So any sort of non-post option with the roof like this, because one of the things I, as the owner of the house, do not want is I do not want the roof to end on that overhang, because that's what condos do. And I feel like it just looks sort of like missing, like it's just cut off. So I do want something that makes it look like a full roof, because there is a full roof behind it. And so having just that one part that's cut off would make me feel like weird as my house. Which is why we came up with this, making the beams come over as sort of a patio structures, but they don't block the light of that 2 bathroom windows. And the other window is actually my kitchen window right by my sink. So I have plants there, that sort of stuff. So we're trying to, I don't know what else to tell you. This is,
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Bloomer.
Okay, can you go to the architectural elevations, please? Actually, can you do the floor plan first? Sorry. So the area we're focused on is here, right?
Yes.
And this is your entry, yes?
correct.
Okay, so, back to the, I don't know, it's gonna be, I guess you could do it from the rendering. So this wall
Correct.
is aligned with this wall here. And this beam should probably project from the wall line, which will carry the column back to alignment with this wall. And that's certainly a little bit more structurally correct, I guess. Not know if this horizontal beam is even necessary.
It's the header that's coming out.
That would
I feel like it looks a little low in the rendering, but it's the header above the window
Yeah,
that's coming across.
Doing comments here, so let's let Josh finish his thought.
So I don't, this is cantilevering out and it's attached to the roof. So this header is probably not necessary. It can actually be eliminated. And it's possible that this beam, the 100% of the structure in the second story is new, correct?
Yes.
So can we go back to the plan? That beam's not carrying a lot of load and it should be lined up on this wall line here. And it should cantilever out and do its job without a column if it needs an additional beam coming across this wall or grid line here, then that can pick up the extra load, but the column can actually be removed. The bigger problem is this deep, tall well that we have here for your entry. And if you go back to the rendering again, this project would benefit if there was some kind of architectural solution to complete what's happening here. I would recommend that you consider, go back, sorry, David, go back to the plan. I don't know if this adds square footage, but you might want to consider continuing along the garage line here and enclosing this little square and making that an entry foyer to your house. With the hallway into the main piece, but that area needs some work on the first floor. I don't have a major problem with the second story addition, just
It's an ADU anyway, so
Yeah,
I can't talk about it really.
I'm gonna talk about it. I can't approve it or deny it, but I can talk about it, right? Talk free country and all that.
Please continue.
But I think the first story just needs a little bit of work at this entry, and I think getting those structural elements aligned will help. Also, what are the plate heights? Can you go back to the plate heights of the building that shall not be spoken? What is the plate height of that? Can you zoom in right there, David? 8 feet. So that's probably I would recommend lowering the plate height of the second story. What's the plate height of this lower floor?
8 or 9.
Looks like that. Is it-
Josh, another option would be to just do a centered gable over that big window directly over the garage and then let the bigger gable be back at the wall. You wouldn't need that post, the header, the trellis,
Yeah.
you
just
wouldn't need any
take
of
it
that.
out and
So a gable right
center the
here.
gable over the window.
Yeah, and it would bring down the mass of it a little bit and simplify your structure.
Yeah, I agree. I would, if we do that, I would still recommend they look at closing. that
Enclosing
lower
the
plate.
down, yeah.
It
yeah.
just gives you more floor area and a better solution to your garage and all that.
Yeah.
It is a dangerous thing to have those little alcoves like that. I mean, somebody can hide in there, well, whatever, but it's just gonna, you know, you could capture that as part of your first floor, no problem, and make a nicer entry for you. I think the project's definitely supportable. It just needs some work, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could extend that roof over that area. And just put a shelter over the entire entry.
Okay, well.
So
think,
yeah, I have some, as the owner, I have some questions, like,
so,
we,
hold on, ma'am.
okay,
I think the idea here is that it's very, well, it's like, as Alex mentioned earlier, it's something we would never approve because it's odd and there are other ways to fix the problem. So I think what, you know, and then as Josh just said, it's an approvable project, you're close. So I would suggest getting your structural to look at this with the recommendations that were just made to see if that post can be eliminated. And then you can, sounds like you can keep the style as you want it, or as Val just mentioned, do your gable just over the window and then, you know, have the larger gable at the back at the larger portion of the mass. So, you know, rather than, we're gonna want to do too much back and forth here. I think we want to push you forward, but it's not there yet. So I think go check with your structural and bring it back, and we'll keep it on consent for review or for final. And so I say that's our recommendation.
okay,
I think that the double gable, the small gable and in front of will achieve what you want to get a nice presence, symmetry in the front facing the street. It will save you money. Anyway, it seems like
Yeah.
like
It's a
most,
simpler,
most of us would do that, you know, but anyway, it's your
And-
project.
get rid of that post.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. So do we need to vote on that again?
So I think the comment, it would just be, it's continued for further
Continue,
review.
yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
okay.
It's-
But we should approve the consent.
I don't think there's,
No?
there's
Not necessary.
nothing,
All right.
unless C1 showed up.
Okay, well, let's move on then to the standard agenda. This item number 1, the Verizon at Camino Lindo request of.
C1 is here, I think, if that's me. Is that,
Yes. Kirk, we were,
sorry, I missed, I didn't enter the meeting in time.
okay, well, Alex, do you want to? Should we go back and take care of C1 then?
See how nice this board is.
Yeah, we were ready for an hour ago.
Yes, yeah, this, is Kirk here?
Yeah, yes, Kirk Rubin, architect, yes.
Yeah, I look at the project online before. You don't have a lot of details, but it's definitely an approvable project and we had no issues before. So I would move to approve as submitted.
Thank you.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, then on to item number 1, the Verizon at Camino Lindo request of Tricia Knight, agent for Verizon Wireless, for conceptual review and preliminary approval of a new small cell wireless facility of 24 cubic feet to be mounted on a new 47 foot tall wood pole. There's currently nothing, there's a vacant lot, and this is near Camino Lindo and IV area. And so do we have the applicant here? Please state your name for the record. Ms. Knight, are you here with us? I see your name up there twice, 3 times. Hand is raised.
Trisha, if you're joining
Hello.
us.
Yep.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, Trisha Knight with Verizon Wireless. You have this project before you today. I was going to share my screen if that's appropriate to sort of go through just a little bit of history and some exhibits.
That should have been submitted with your files, so really we don't, allow that anymore. So we have to work
Okay.
with what is on the screen here.
Okay. The planner that I'm working with did indicate she submitted some photo simulations along with the project.
Sorry, she what?
Yes, right there. There we go. Submitted some photo simulations that you're pulling up right now. So this area to be covered by Verizon was originally submitted in 2019. We went through several different renditions and went to Planning Commission, had a site walk with the neighbors and so on and so forth. Anyway, ended up at this current location with this design, which fits within the development standards for the Tier 1 small cell facility in the county's ordinance as far as size, color, and height. And so we feel this is a good location for it. We've been around and around in this area looking for an ideal location, and this has been the one we've landed at. So I'm here to answer questions. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see different views of the proposed project. The equipment is on the pole. All utility connections are underground. If you scroll down one more, you'll see the antenna at the top. And yes, and it's the furthest removed from an actual residential unit due to that vacant lot. We don't know about the development future for it at this time, but that was another reason for that location. And so I'm here to answer questions as you have them.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from the board?
I have a question. Where is the 24 cubic feet? How is it
Yeah.
the equipment, or is it the whole pole that is very big? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's the cubic feet that's allowed to stay in that Tier 1 project permit processing tier. And that is with all inclusive of antennas and the equipment. So if you scroll down one more to the, yeah, there you go, to the elevations, you'll see that the antenna at the top in combination with the radios on the pole, right there, yes, have to be within that 24 cubic feet rule in order to stay within that tier. If you go any larger than that, then they head into Tier 2 and above.
Wait. The pole, what's the diameter of the pole?
I'm not 100% sure. If we scroll up one page, I would say it doesn't call out in that aerial view there. I want to say, I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't say. It's a standard utility pole diameter.
Oh, it's like a standard pole, or is it extra hefty, like a 12, 14?
It's standard.
Verizon, does it say 2 feet? What does it say? A new Verizon wireless. What does it say?
2
here?
foot tall antenna.
Yeah, it's 2 feet tall on top of the pole. So I would say 24, probably 24-inch diameter, if I had to guess.
24 foot. So it's a pretty fat pole, and then there's a cabinet, right? Then the cabinet.
There's an equipment shroud you'll see on the elevation view, about 3/4 of the way down the pole. There you go.
And that is, what's the size of that thing?
I believe if you, I'll look on my end here.
So these are really the basic things we need. It's the size of the pole, the size of the cabinet, and the height.
Is the pole and the cabinets fit within the 24 cubic square feet that are allowed in this tier of development in this area? I'm looking for those exact dimensions right now, but we worked pretty diligently to make sure we fit within that guideline.
Well, it's just, I guess the question is how, what is this, what is the size of the pole? What is the size of the cabinet? You know, height, width, and depth.
The height of the antenna is 2 feet. Diameter is 2 feet. 2 by 2. And I'm looking for the dimensions right now on the equipment.
No. There you go. So if the diameter of that antenna on top is 2 feet, then the pole is 2 feet?
Approximately, yes, because if you can see it's flush with the pole at the top there.
I have a question. Who owns that property that is
It's
adjacent?
just, I'm not sure this is in the right of way, so I'm not 100% sure who owns that adjacent property.
Okay, we have
Not
someone.
sure.
in the audience, and we'll
Maybe
get-
planning knows the answer.
Hey, other questions? Okay, public comment. We have a couple speaker slips here and a hand raised. So we'll have 2 minutes per speaker, and we'll begin with Julia Barbosa. Up to the podium. All right, make that 4-piece speaker slips.
My name is Julia Barbosa. I'm a resident of Isla Vista. That's the letter I submitted. I live a block away from that site. I submitted the picture so you can see that in the pictures the applicant submitted doesn't really quite do justice to the ocean view that lot, that area has. Because of the time constraints, I won't reiterate what I already wrote. I think that it's not congruent with the neighborhood. I think it would be an eyesore. And referring to the visit that the applicant Tricia Knight was mentioning with Commissioner Park back in 2020, we walked around and Commissioner Park's preferred site was actually off of Fortuna Road near the eucalyptus trees adjacent to the UCSB faculty housing, because that would be far from other developments and it wouldn't be an eyesore. And at that point, it came out in conversation with one of the Verizon representatives were saying that they had approached UCSB in the past to put a tower there because I guess they could use the good reception. And at that point, the applicant also refused to consider any locations east of Camino Corto, meaning going into Isla Vista where it's more densely populated. So it's clear that they wanted something along Camino Mallorca, which is where the original application was for, on Trigo and Camino Mallorca. So they really want that area of the West End, which it feels unfair because that's not where the demand is, where that R1 zoning is. And also, if this were approved, it would make 3 cell towers within roughly 500 feet, which seems substantial. Because this is now going to the Planning Commission, I don't know how it goes to bring up other facts that could be used later in the event of an appeal. But there's also a resident right across, almost directly across from that, who has a medical condition that might need an ADA accommodation if the approval went up for the pool as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nancy Viviette. Viviette.
This is a site that has been chosen in the Isla Vista area under the premise that this is a transient population, which it is not at this end of town. This is the R1. And this site is in the heart of the 2-block area of the R1. I personally have lived at that 6867 on Sabado Tarde for 43 years. That is not a transient population. The majority of people there have lived there for a very long period of time. And we are very happy that families are beginning to come back in to this area. This is the lot. It's a buildable lot with a water meter. And you have the view that comes from that lot straight to the ocean. It's an ocean, island, sky, uninterrupted view. And the reason that view is uninterrupted is because there is a wetland reserve on the bluff at that site. This particular property we purchased in 1985 because of the plants that grew there. It is a seasonal wetland site. It has high wildlife value. It is in the fly zone from the coast through the reserve at the bluff, over the lot. 6 geese went by yesterday, and on to the wetland areas. If you go back on that one, that is a view from the corner of the lot out to the ocean. That lot will be impaired specifically by this post. It will be right in that line of view and block any building that's there in the future will be permanently blocked by this structure. The line of view from this is Camino Lindo that we're looking at. This is a very popular place. It's heavily utilized by students and residents because the movement of people in the evening is to the bluff to watch the sunset. The movement in the morning are the dogs, the joggers, the bird watchers, and the surfers. It's heavily utilized by people in this area. I am very concerned that the wetland designation from 1985 was not considered in this placement. If you go to the shot of the post next to my house, this one right there, that has a guy wire to hold it in place because it's on a wetland area. And the post next to my house is leaning at 10 degrees after 2 years of wetland. I am very concerned about placing this in a wetland habitat. It is in an area where the water fills seasonally and drains specifically to the Camino Lindo side, which means that post will be sitting in water any time it rains.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Warfield, 2 minutes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I won't reiterate, but I do support everything you heard on this lot, this placement. One of the things that we need to reconsider in this whole process of electrifying people's brains is we need to put these things on public property with lots and lots of room around them so that their broadcasts are not boom, 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 boom off of all these surfaces and you get garbled messages over these things. This is open space now, but it's not going to be for very long. I know Nancy is very persuasive, but I think money talks. This is Santa Barbara County, actually. We're not incorporated as a city, so we have no control over this stuff. But this thing ought to be in a public place with a good expanse around it on all 4 sides. The other, and I won't go back into the other things, but if this is ever developed as a residential place, the driveway, the access to this lot needs to be right where that post is going to be. You can't enter Sabado Tarde or Del Playa from some sort of parking area. You have to enter on the other street because the traffic on Del Playa and Sabado Tarde is just too fast. We have a stop sign in Isla Vista. You'll never guess where it is. It's way out toward Francisco Torres, and it's this big. And it says 25 miles an hour. On this street you're looking at where you're standing and taking this picture, this is sometimes 40 miles an hour for hours at a time. And it's really, really bad. We have policing, but it's the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Police, and they have other more interesting things to do. Big screen televisions and stuff. Anyway, this is just a bad, it's a good proposal, but it's a bad placement for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you submit to a request for an item number 3 also, or? Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, no problem. Anyone else would like to speak on this item? Ms. Turner, Jean Turner.
Hi, this is Jean Turner. And I just wanted to add something that wasn't covered by the other speakers, which is the fact that there is a community assessment district, actually community service district, tax assessment of 8% added to utilities, and it's being used to build sidewalks in Isla Vista and to place utilities underground. So as you can see in some of the photos, there are utility poles in the area, but the long-term plan is to bring those utility poles underground and relieve some of the congestion that the high density of occupancy in Isla Vista brings. Also, I haven't seen any blind people lately, but there used to be a few. Also, my 86-year-old mother uses her walker to go to the beach. And right now, of course, she has to walk in the middle of the street. But in the future, if there were sidewalks, she would be able to walk on them, except that if the pole goes in this sidewalk easement, she would then have to go back out into the street and re-enter the sidewalk at some further point. I have I object to any obstructions being placed in a sidewalk easement. That's not what they're for. They're not utility easements, they're sidewalk easements. And Isla Vista is already congested enough with bicycles, mopeds, people riding their bicycles with surfboards. They're either carrying them or they have them on a trailer. And when the surf's up, it's kind of like these people are addicted to surfing. They are pedaling at high speed. And so it's very dangerous that Isla Vista does not have adequate sidewalks at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I see we have the planner here, Ms. Brown. Can you speak a little bit about this project and maybe specifically to the wetland issue, or and also the sidewalk or potential future development in the area?
Yeah, so I wanted to provide a little clarification on the measurements as well. The plans show the antenna being 14 inches in diameter, and the total pole mounted equipment would be 12.19 cubic feet. As far as the wetland, there's no wetlands that show up on our mapping, and it is within the right of way. It was taken to the Subdivision Development Review Committee for comments from other departments, and Roads and Transportation or Public Works didn't have any comments. Sorry, was that all your questions?
Yeah, I mean, any other insight is appreciated as far as what this this applicant has been through to get here, and as if other locations have been considered and exhausted.
Yeah, so I wasn't the original planner for the CUP that went to the Planning Commission, but I did look into those case notes, and it was proposed at a different location, and they were asked to restudy different locations. So throughout our review, we asked for a summary of why it couldn't be proposed at other locations. There was some explanation as to co-locating on adjacent Crown Castle poles. I guess there's SCE climbing distance requirements, and so they weren't able to put the equipment on those poles. And there was another location that they had talked to. The applicant will have better information on this, but they looked at another location that was county public works property, and so then they denied that one. But yeah, they did do a study of other locations.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the board for comments.
Can I have a question, please?
Yeah.
For the, not for the applicant, for the planner, I think. When you say 12.19 cubic feet, is that the panel? I just trying to figure, is it like a 3 foot by 4 foot panel about a foot deep, located about 18 feet off the ground? Is that what we're looking at?
So that was the total for all the pole mounted equipment. So the antenna and that box that you see.
So what is that? Looks like a panel. How big is that?
It should be in the there's a page that shows all the equipment.
It's on the A6 page. A6 page of the drawings.
Middle.
Yeah, so
There
this
we
one
go.
right here.
So how big is it?
Can you interpret for us? Is it 69.8
Absolutely.
inches?
Yeah.
What I mean, I just
You can see
simple.
the dimensions in the middle there. 25.3 long.
So it's 25 inches tall. Is that what I mean? Just give me
Correct.
some.
Correct.
See that?
Is it a rectangle or is it more like a?
It is. It is basically a rectangle. Correct.
So it's 25 inches tall. And
Correct.
how deep? What are the other two dimensions?
Looks like 19.5. You'll see in that upper diagram, and about 19.7 wide.
Or something like a square, but
Yeah, a long square, but yeah.
this is 20 by 20 by 2 feet. Okay, so that's the panel. That's not the antenna. That is the panel in the middle of the pole, right?
That is correct. If you shift to the let's see here, I just saw it. It would be the A4 page. You will see in that lower right-hand corner the antenna detail. We've got a diameter of 14. Yep, that lower antenna detail 1. The lower right-hand corner there. Yeah.
That's
There we
the
go. Yeah. So
the stand is 2 feet tall, and that's the
yeah.
Yeah, it's not very big for
Yeah, and then 14.6 in diameter. So I was mistaken.
and it's on top
So-
of normal wood power pole, correct? Like which is about
Correct.
14 inches or so, more or less. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think
Correct.
The panel you're asking about is not 2 feet. It looks more like 6 feet. If you go back to that A6 page. Yeah, the antenna's at the very top.
yeah,
And so are these inches here in the middle? Because 69.8 inches, right? That's basically
Where are you looking? Sorry.
right in the middle,
69.8.
right there, where David is highlighting.
Oh.
19 wide, 20 wide.
No, we're looking at on the right-hand side. Let's see, 69.
no,
Done.
I think we need to come back and I mean, really simple questions. This is we're a design review. We need to understand what we're looking at.
Talk about.
Yes.
Right, let's talk about the.
Yeah,
big
so we're in
picture.
comments, so go ahead. Why don't you, Ms. Froscher, comment?
Yeah, I'll just say that I don't think this is an appropriate location for this whole thing. I don't really care how big or small the components are. I think it's too much out in the open in the middle of a residential neighborhood with a vacant lot that's wants to be developed for people to live in. There's got to be a better place for this that is more concealed. I mean, we've approved these over many years in many locations. And some of them have been quite successful where they just blend into the surroundings of other trees and distance from residents. This, I can't accept this.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I say
I-
one last
I
thing?
agree with those comments. It's an unfortunate location. It's out there by itself. I think
Yeah.
that the applicant, you know, since we have such a proliferation of these antennas, should try to seek a location that's has a backdrop of trees or something like that, which will, you know, make the antenna blend into the background. You know, I mean, I don't think that's that hard to do. I think, you know, this location is the worst. You know, you can imagine, should put something, I mean, it should have trees in the background, or you know, you should try and locate this thing. It's high enough to so the antenna is above the treetops. I mean, it just would be much more compatible. Try to seek a location that, you know, is would blend in.
Is it okay to say one more thing?
No. Mr. Peugeot,
No
no
additional
comments. Mr. Richards?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I agree with the concerns about the location. Also, if there's a future plan to bring a sidewalk along there, then the pole seems like it's gonna conflict with that. So, you know, if there's a bunch of other antenna poles in the area, well, maybe this can be combined on one that's already existing. So I would encourage looking at that.
Mr. Bloomer?
The pole itself is fine. Great pole. Location is not. Find a new location.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Mr. Fujino.
Yeah, so now I understand the 24 cubic feet. So this cabinet is 2 feet by 2 feet by 6 foot tall. And the comment is, can it be put on the ground? I understand that it's elevated, it's protected from vandalism, or, I mean, you heard that before. If there's any way to put the cabinet lower,
Vault.
or just at ground level, and, you know, at least, you know, it's not up there, 18 feet up in the air. That would be preferred. I agree with the comment. Oh, no, I agree with the comment. The antenna is fine. It's not a huge thing. It's on top of a pole. It's not, you know, I agree with the comment on the location. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur with the rest of the board. It seems like the worst possible place, way out in the open. I mean, if there was a house there now, I think there would probably not be proposed there. And so we assume that there will be a house there in the future. And so Ms. Knight, you had one other, you know, statement to make, if you would, briefly.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to speak one last time. This will be our, I'll go with fourth location considered on this specific project. The Fortuna location that one of the speakers had spoken about was our original application here, but it was owned by Parks and Rec, Santa Barbara Parks and Rec, and they would not entertain us entering into a lease there at that location. So this will be the fourth location that we have pursued in the course of 4 years. And so right now, this is meeting all the design guidelines, and we currently are in a agreement with the county of Santa Barbara for a tolling agreement for an extension on the shot clock for this, which ends on March 1st. And so this was our last attempt to give you a project that meets all the development standards within the ordinance, and a location that we had looked at many alternatives and landed in this location because it was the best one in all the ones that had been considered. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, the other 4 locations, are those locations that we reviewed or who declined? I guess the Parks and Rec did. But it would be nice to see for our board, maybe some kind of an exhibit that shows where the previous locations were proposed and any other potential locations. With that, we have a motion. If someone wants to make a motion, we're here for concept and prelim.
So we're agendized for preliminary approval today. So I'd like to make a motion to deny the application or deny the request. With the comment to go forward that the board supports the poll, but requests that the applicant find a new location suitable, compatible with the neighborhood.
Okay, with the seconder? The addition, yeah.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. See you next time. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, Garcia addition request of Jill M. Horton, agent for Vanessa Garcia for conceptual review of an addition to the existing residence of 591 square feet. This is at 5120 Dawn Lane in Goleta. Do we have an applicant here? Please state.
Hello, Brian Miller, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Brian.
Hi, yeah, I'm standing in for Jill Horton. She was unable to make it, so I'm presenting this project on her behalf.
Okay, so give us a 5 to 7 minute presentation if you would.
Okay, this is a single family residence and they're adding a 2nd story addition to an expanding family. The 2nd story addition is being constructed, I believe, over the garage. It's a master bedroom suite with the regular bedrooms on the 1st floor. The siding, the 2nd story addition will match the stucco texture of the existing home. The roof material will match existing, and the windows to be added to the addition will also match existing as well. I think there's some minor interior changes on the 1st floor as well. Notice on the exterior water heater there is going to be removed, and they're going to put in an InstaHot type water heater. And basically that's it. If you would like to scroll down and look at the floor plan, that's the existing floor plan. And there, here you can see the 2nd story addition of the master bedroom suite with the master closet, master bath, and master bedroom. And I see on the 1st floor, if we could scroll back, sorry, you can see there's a couple of minor remodels in the kitchen, as well as the added stairway from the 1st floor.
Okay. We'll just run through the rest of the roof plan.
Yep, pretty much match existing kind of style. The hip roof.
Which is the elevation facing the street? Is that the?
I would be the south elevation.
Okay, and that's it. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Questions from the board? No questions.
What's going on with that step in the roof on the south front?
Oh, yeah, that's that was the first question I asked Jill myself. That's an existing condition. Apparently when they originally built the track, they made that overhang 3 feet, and then they pushed it back to 2 feet on the rest of the house. That's an existing condition, so it's a little strange.
Yes.
Hey, other questions?
Yeah, it's a little bit unclear about the windows. Are they going to match the existing, and what are those windows?
Yeah, it's AutoCAD drafting is interesting. I always find it things, the window weights are weird, but yeah, they're matching existing. It'd probably be helpful if you go back to the photographs You can kind of see what the existing windows look like. They have those mullions, but they're like embedded inside the windows. So it's going to match that kind of treatment. But if you look at the AutoCAD drafting, it looks really abrupt, but they're really not. It's the mullions are rather subtle within the window.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand if so, or step forward. Hey,
We did get a letter for this
Oh.
one
did, okay,
from Mike Fisher and his wife Janine.
got it. Okay. Comments from the board? Anyone?
I'd like to say something. I think the project would look, will improve if the materials of the second floor were a little bit different. Like it's some siding, because it's plaster and it's, you know, and to have a one-story plaster building is one thing. When you have a two-story, it starts becoming, I don't know, a little bit more harsh. Maybe a horizontal siding on board and bat or something like that, and add some color. I think it would soften the addition.
I like that.
Could we see the site plan?
Yeah.
In that letter, they describe how most of the properties in the neighborhood have stayed one story. I don't know if there were CCNRs for one story. But what's your, well, give us some context on what's happening with the immediate neighbors. And
Yeah,
and
there's
why you're not just staying one story. It looks like
I
you've got plenty of.
believe there is some other existing two-story houses. There's supposed to be a very large two-story house up behind this house. The reasoning behind the fact that they're doing second story and not expanding out, I think, is they wanted to keep their yard open. It was more, rather than covering up more of the property, they wanted to go up. They thought was more, made more sense. It's an interior lot. That's probably the best answer I could give you at the time, at this moment. I don't have any, I don't know if you can have access to Google to kind of Google the neighborhood. That would better inform me as well as in terms of the existing neighborhood.
Usually that's submitted with the,
Yeah, wasn't there?
with the
there you
drawings.
go.
Yeah, there's.
Oh,
that.
there you go. There you go. So looks like there's that house right behind it. There's a second story addition. Yeah, up, one up, more up. But aside from the other, that I don't have better information in terms of the context of the neighborhood.
Okay, maybe you can bring that back for the next meeting.
Yes.
For like a neighborhood study.
So
Yes.
the second story addition is going over the lower part of this photograph, right?
Yeah, over the garage. Correct.
The
Yes.
garage is in the lower left of the property there.
Yes. Yes.
So that is very close to the property line into the neighbor's backyard.
Yeah, and also it's got an expanded eave. Just from this photograph, I can't confirm it. So it appears to be closer than the rest of the house, but I think that should be clarified.
So can we take a look at the, what would be the west elevation here? Yeah. So-
Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, it does come out. Okay, got it.
So, okay, so we're in comments, right? Yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess we're in comments.
okay.
Well, you know, we review these kind of projects for the Goleta design guidelines, which has a lot to do with side loading, which when you go over a garage, you kind of walk right into that condition of side loading.
Yeah,
And in addition, when you have an interior lot like this where what feels like, well, it's the side of yours, but it's adjacent to somebody else's backyard, then you're only a few feet away from your neighbor.
uh-huh.
So I don't think it's a good solution.
So you're saying it's too much of a mass on the edge of the
Yeah.
property line?
And that what we look for is integrating it into the heart of the house if you're gonna go up.
Yeah,
So that it looks like it was always there,
right.
not something that was added on later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other comments?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we should,
John, just make sure you have the
You need
mic
that
close.
closer to your face.
I think we should see a section, through the lot showing the relationship of the second story to the adjacent buildings. In other words,
Yes,
are the second story being looking down right in the neighbor's house, or, we can't tell from what's illustrated here.
yeah.
I think that would be important to show that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Peugeot?
There's another comment, that little roof going around the perimeter doesn't really quite help that much. It's such a, that overhang, it's supposed to break the mass in half, but yeah, do it, so.
Excuse
I
me.
know in the front is a little bit offset for some reason, it's a couple of feet back. But in the other places, the second story sits on top of the first story.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so there gotta be something else that you can do to soften the architecture and to integrate it more with the existing.
Okay, Member Richards?
I agree that it'd be helpful to see like a section cut between the properties to better understand any concerns about privacy between the two. Also, anything to take that addition and maybe kind of tuck it in a little bit or reduce it, I think might help. It does kind of look like it's just plopped on top of the existing building. So I think Val was trying to ask the question of why they, or maybe trying to explore the idea why they can't expand out on the first level. And then I was looking at the site plan. It looks like the building is pretty constrained by the setback. So, but maybe the addition could be put over the other part of the house instead of over the garage, and it might kind of fit better. So I don't know, that might be an alternate solution.
Okay.
You go to the site plan, David.
Mr. Bloomer?
Yes, you got a 25-foot setback in the back. Charlie was in that. little
Comes in
sliver
here.
there.
Yeah. Here. Maybe go back to
Can
the.
you go back to the photos?
Bunch.
Do you have anything that steps back from the building shows? Okay, here we go.
I do see board and bat actually in the entry area too as well. So it's definitely
There, David. Okay, driveway view, can you zoom in on that? A little more, please. Eyes are
It's hard to see.
okay. I thought I might have a comment about the site, but I don't, so I don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
Okay,
Can we just go back to the site plan for a second? There's that area of lawn at the bottom of the lot. Why couldn't you put a garage there? That seems like a kind of disconnected piece of the backyard. And then remodel the downstairs and keep the backyard the way it is and not deal with the expense of the 2-story and the issues of neighborhood compatibility. Anyway, I don't know how that lawn is used, but it looks on the plan like it's kind of disconnected.
also doesn't show a setback along that. Along
Yeah,
that
although
property line.
it's probably another interior
Yeah,
setback.
okay.
Which isn't that big.
So I don't have anything different to say, but I concur with Val's comments. I think the biggest issue for me would be the privacy to the west.
Yeah.
And so I think in the side loading aspect. And so I think, you know, looking for another solution, maybe the best bet over the existing portion of the first floor. But so I think, you know, return for further conceptual prelim if it's good, right?
I think the this thought about doing work in the garage, moving the garage, that would really, that's
Less money by
Yeah.
a lot.
I think
and
that'd
it
be
also opens up the side because all of a sudden you don't need, you know, you can
Yeah, then you
put the
could have-
garage, you can expand it in the other, what is now paid in.
and have a better entry too. Yeah. Have
That's-
more
that would- that's
landscaping in front.
That sounds possible, sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Anyway.
So that's a suggestion by the board.
No, can I get some clarification what you're saying? You're saying suggesting adding the addition where that existing lawn is on the lower?
Well,
Yeah,
sort of
that'd be
moving
the
the garage
garage.
over.
That
Oh,
would
moving the garage over.
be the
Okay,
garage.
got it. Got it.
And then you
Okay.
remodel the rest of that block that you've got hatched.
Yeah.
Got a
So
master.
are you saying if they did that without adding a second story, they don't need to go before design review? I
No,
heard that. No? Okay, I'm just curious.
That's just be a better.
No, it just seems like a less expensive, simpler solution and then enables you to do better landscaping at the entry too and kind of fix the,
Mhm.
all the
Yeah.
paved areas in the front.
You'd create a whole entry
And-
courtyard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's your driveway off on the side.
Because right
Yeah.
now it appears that your whole front yard is driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, if you do go that route, I think we need more detail on that site
Sure.
plan. Like what's happening along those property lines? Is there existing vegetation? Are those really is that the only planter right in front of that little area?
Well, I think that setbacks need to be drawn in. I don't see any setbacks.
Yeah,
of the
except for the
easement.
and I guess the
Oh, yeah, that's.
the west.
That's not even setbacks.
Oh.
Yeah, put your setbacks.
Okay,
Yep.
so I think return for further conceptual / prelim. And
Okay.
you're ready.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Item number 3. Peru's Bakash modification, request of Mehdi Hadiji, agent for Ali Peru's Bakash. I hope I'm saying that right. For conceptual review and preliminary approval of modification to allow the 2 required parking spaces to be located in the front setback. The 2 spaces are required to replace the parking lost as a result of the conversion of the existing garage to an ADU of 420 square feet. This is located at 6815 Trigo Road in IV. Trigo, that's what I said. All right. And we do have a planner memo from Kylie Brown, right? Yep. Okay, can you slide down a little bit? So the comments are as follows. The project is for a modification to allow the 2 required parking spaces to be in the front setback. 2 spaces are required to replace the parking lot. I already read this. Okay. Modifications are. Can you go back up again, David? Sorry. right there, require design review approval pursuant to these sections which state project is subject to the provisions of this BAR provision shall be scheduled to be heard by the BAR for prelim and review and approval only before the project being heard by the zoning administrator. And the project must receive preliminary approval at SBAR, and we must make the finding prior to action on the modification of it's minor in nature and will result in a better site or architectural design as approved by the BAR in compliance and or will result in greater resource protection than the project without such a modification. So do we have the applicant here with us?
Yes.
Okay,
Mehdi Hadiji.
Okay, hi Mehdi. You want to give us a quick overview? It seems
Well,
pretty straightforward.
yeah, I mean, the project is single family residence. And we are converting the existing garage to ADU. And we are proposing 2 parking space in front of the existing garage, so the existing driveway. And unfortunately, part of the car would be inside the front setback. And for that reason, we're asking for modification to allow us to have that 2 parking space in the front setback. And then they told us we have to get the SBAR blessing, and that's why we're here today.
So did you say, you said a portion of the vehicle would be in the,
Yeah, it just part of 1/3 of the car would be in front of the setback. Front of, yeah.
well, it doesn't show on the site plan though, no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised because
Yeah, it looks to me like the entire. It says, okay, so we do need to see what line you're talking about here, and then maybe we.
you see, Chair, see the dimension I have, 50 feet.
For the front setback.
So, yeah,
From
30 feet is the front setback. I'm just so surprised it's not there because I had on my drawing.
Yeah, is that not shown?
It looks like the cars are completely in the front setback. If it's 50 feet from the center line of the road, which is what it looks like.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
but this front setback is 30 feet. So 30 minus 50.
so then they wouldn't be, so we need the actual information. So let's keep moving now. Okay, so what else would you like to share with us? Should we just run through this?
That's about it, really.
Okay. You want to just scroll through, David? Keep going. Yep. So yeah, let's pause there. So those are existing elevations. You see the garage
Correct.
north, and then if you go
Correct.
back up the south elevation.
Yeah, south elevation.
Okay. Can you go back down then? Because it's labeled north on that one. Oh, south. I think your labeling is off somewhere. Maybe. See here.
Correct.
They shows.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So then back up to the proposed. Okay, I think we have enough information. Questions from the board?
Does this ADU exist already? My question is, the ADU, is it there now?
No, we are proposing. I mean, I barely can hear.
John just needs to be closer. Okay, sorry about that. So
Not a problem.
your proposal is to convert the garage and put the parking in the front setback or partial.
Correct.
Space. Anyone else have questions? Okay.
because it's a modification, do we comment on the architecture too or not? Because it's, usually supposed to match the existing or whatever, like, do we comment on that or we only comment on the modification itself?
As far as I
Mr.
know,
Chair,
Joe.
my conversation with
I
the
could-
planner. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I can go ahead and take this real quick. So if the project is just for a modification, then the board's comments should be focused strictly on that. Any design components of the ADU are not subject to the board's review at this time.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, public comment. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item, then please raise your hand and or step forward. We have one speaker, Kenneth Warfield, 2 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you. If you go back to the photographs, you'll see that there is one car parked in the third photograph. That's where the cars park. Now, there are 5 cars parked in that front yard right now and 2 in the driveway. This guy's coming to you to say, my garage, which has not been opened to my knowledge, and I'm a neighbor, I live right behind him for 5 years, never seen that garage door open. It's full of people. It's probably got 6 bedrooms in it. Now he wants to make a second unit out of it and still park his 5 cars on the front yard and 2 cars in the driveway. That's what this is about. You're being hoodwinked. It would make me uncomfortable if I were part of that deal.
Thank you. Okay, back to the board for comments. Ms. Froscher.
We might need some more clarification because I think the ADU statutes preclude parking requirements and that you can take over a garage and you're not required to replace the parking that you take over. So I'm not sure
We have the planner. or do we-
Why?
I think,
We're- making a modification.
May I respond to question?
not quite yet. Do we have Kylie Brown here, the planner?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So the parking is not required. There's no additional parking spaces required for an accessory dwelling unit, but in the coastal zone, when you take away parking, they need to replace the parking that is removed. So the required parking for the single family dwelling is still required. So the modification is for the required spots for the single family dwelling to be located in the front setback.
I see, and that's in the coastal zone. Oh. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We are in comments now. Do you have comments that you want to? Come back to you.
Come back.
Okay. Mr. Verdiak.
Well, I think that parking in the front setback, it degrades the neighborhood. And since neighborhood compatibility is one of our responsibilities, I can't support this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peugeot.
I think something needs to be done with the landscaping. It seems that there is absolutely nothing in there. I'm not sure if the rains came and washed everything out or it was bad. And I understand the comment about parking. It's just, it's not pretty parking in front of the garage door, but it is so common. It's so, it just seems like, I imagine that if you drive around, you're gonna see every other house that done the same thing. So I don't know about that part, but I wish there was something that could be done to embellish this place.
Ms. Froscher.
Yeah, I feel like in exchange for a modification to parking, there needs to be a landscape plan and an effort to organize the parking instead of filling the whole yard with cars.
Okay, Mr. Richards.
Yeah, I don't see that it's appropriate to use a front yard. That should be landscape area for parking vehicles. It's a complicated issue because there's probably 5, 6 people with 5, 6 cars living in this home, and if they all put them on the street, then I'm sure the neighbors are gonna be unhappy about all the cars being on the street, so. But it's not appropriate to use the front yard as a parking lot, so I agree that it should be landscaped appropriately. I don't see a problem with parking 2 cars in front of a garage. But, you know, parking 5, 6 cars in the front yard in addition to the driveway, I think is inappropriate.
Mr. Bloomer.
I can support the project and the modification with the landscape plan that allows for a physical barrier to constrain parking on designated parking areas that are appropriate. The same way that it's being described by the rest of the board, so I'm gonna want to see a site wall bounding the landscape area. It needs to be high enough so that a 4-wheel drive truck can't drive over it, I guess. Even that the renters might be useful.
Okay.
I'm joking about the last comment. But it needs to be a significant physical barrier to a vehicle.
Yeah, that's, it appears that the entire front yard has become the driveway, and it's exactly what I was gonna say, that a landscape plan with a physical barrier would be needed if, and then I think the modification would be minor in nature and unapprovable. So I think if that's the direction the applicant wants to go, then bring it back to, we are here for concept and prelim. So I think we could return then for further conceptual, preliminary and final at full board if, oh, that's right, it needs a mod. So yeah, I think return for further conceptual and preliminary with the aforementioned comments about a landscape plan and with a physical barrier to limit parking in the front yard. All right. Thank you very much. We're
Great,
gonna
thank you.
Take a 5-minute break and then we'll return for item number 4.
Okay, Olivia, we are done.
Okay, and we're back. Moving on to item number 4. Actually, before we do, just for those of you at home, it appears that we have about an hour left before lunch. So if, if you're item number 8, 9, and 10, it's likely that we probably won't get to you before noon. So we'd be back around 1-ish, just so you're not waiting throughout this whole process. So that said, item number 4, Chick-fil-A at Calle Real, request of Ed Hale, agent for Turnpike Lodges Limited Partnership, DBA Ramada, Santa Barbara, for further conceptual review of a new restaurant of 2,504 square feet and a sign permit consisting of the installation of 4 wall signs, 1 freestanding sign, 2 directional signs, and 2 menu boards. This is located at 4765 Calle Real in Goleta. Last heard, what is that, May 20th? Yes, of last year. We have applicants here in front of us. Please state your names for the record.
Carlos Arias.
Russell Hatfield.
Nicole Hurrian.
Okay, welcome. And so whenever you're ready, give us your brief presentation, about 10 minutes. If you keep it to that.
Sounds great. Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Carlos Arias again, Development Manager here on behalf of Chick-fil-A, and want to take a moment to say thank you. We're just grateful for the opportunity to be here presenting to you again. Grateful for your time and energy spent on reviewing our process this far. We are here requesting conceptual approval. Since our last meeting, we've been diligently working with the county and the various departments at the county on revisions and improvements here, and also, of course, incorporating the feedback that we got from our last meeting with you. And so here to walk us through the revisions and highlighting our project or going through the presentation is our architect, Russell Hatfield, and of course, our local landscape architect, Nicole Hurrian. But turn it over to you, Russell.
And Russell, could you also, I sort of didn't read through all the comments. There's a lot of them. So with your presentation, try and touch on the comments from last time as you go through. Thanks.
See if this is on. Sure. Is that coming through?
I don't know.
A lot closer. Okay.
Is the light on?
No, it's on.
Okay.
I'm just a soft talk.
Joe, can you hear him?
Yes, I can.
Okay. There you
Very
go.
good. All right. As part of our presentation, we will address these in some sort of order. So thank you, Chair Gillian and board members. And Nicole, I'm going to have you run the little clicker here. Yeah, I got that responsibility. There we go. Okay. So here's the site plan from our last meeting in May last year. And just continue. This is the elevation of or rendering of one of the renderings we presented last year. In this presentation, we have several before and after images to demonstrate what we've changed. We'll also show you how each one of the comments from the SBAR meeting minutes was addressed. In terms of general feedback, your board found that the project has improved in response to prior comments. Size and bulk, scale are acceptable, and that the contemporary design can be successful. The details will be important to better tie into the area. For example, plaster detailing needs to be of high quality. And then it says currently the board feels the project does not reflect the architectural character of the area and that some members feel the building is too tall. So we'll start with the context and we'll visit some of the buildings around our site. So this is the Ramada across the street, Calle Real. And this is another view of the, hold on, that's Starbucks. We're going a little fast here. And here's this Starbucks building immediately to the west of our site at the intersection of Cali Real and Turnpike. Another view of it from Turnpike. And across Turnpike, the In-N-Out. Another view of In-N-Out from Cali Real. And finally, across the street from In-N-Out, the extended stay America. In terms of architectural style, this group is mixed. They also vary in size and height. They do share, however, that the primary element of their facades is stucco. This is the east elevation of the restaurant, and as you can see, the height is 22.6. We have a tall parapet around the roof to screen RTUs, exhaust fans, and condensing equipment, of which there is a lot on this Chick-fil-A. Here's the west elevation. Again, the tallest element is 22.6. While our building is shorter and smaller in size than the Starbucks next door, they share all, they don't share all the architectural elements. They are both modern. The massing of our building is straightforward. The exterior skin is rendered in a light colored, smooth troweled plaster with a minimum of reveals and details. Details are articulated in wood, metal, and tile. The stucco and the other materials I mentioned characterize much of the traditional and contemporary architecture of Santa Barbara. We feel it belongs. Again, this is just showing the parapet heights of the building. The tallest parapet is 23.5, I believe. And here are the east and west elevations, and the building is well below the 35-foot height limit established by the land use code. Okay. The board also said to consider thickening the canopy edges, look to increase the size of the pedestrian canopy to be in scale with other project elements. This one's a tricky one because it all depends upon your perspective. Here's a view from the street, and one thing to note is there's a setback, a building setback, and that front edge of the canopy there is basically just that side of the building setback. We did look into extending it, but you'll see on the next slide, if we did that, we'd actually be in the parking lot. So what we did is we bracketed that with 2 oak trees to help frame the entrance from the sidewalk and create an extended natural canopy. Here's another view from the sidewalk. The next comment was regarding the canopies in general. Wood soffits on the canopies are a nice solution. Study how canopies tie into the building to ensure properly detailed and that they are properly detailed and proportional. Slide. So we've already made some changes based on recommendations, adding a channel to the exterior, making sure that there's some overlap of that channel with the stucco. You can see that at the tower element there where the canopy ties into it. The intent is to be compatible with the building itself. The wood is there to give a richness to the experience of being under this canopy. This is a double cantilever. It's self-supported as far as the tying into the building. It will have minimal ties into the building except for waterproofing. Go to the next slide. Here's another view of it, of the canopy over the on the building main facade facing Cali Real. The canopy is supported with outriggers that are tied to columns embedded in the wall. There's 2 columns that are you can see right there that frame the openings. Those also have outriggers. It's cantilevered out, tied into the roof for lateral. This longer element here has the wall, which extends underneath it to add additional support where the canopy is extended out the furthest. I don't know when the right time, I have a material board just so you guys can actually, see the materials that we're contemplating. Then we also talked about, comment was increasing areas of diverse hardscape materials to enhance the pedestrian zones. We talked about this as a group and with my other architects. We were a bit unclear what it means to enhance, and is it to make it safer? Is it to improve the quality of the experience? Is it just better materials? I'm not really sure what you intended by that comment. But in the end, I prefer to keep it simple. The building's a simple building. It's a small, modest building. We serve chicken sandwiches, which are very good, but it's not a fancy meal. And the building, I think, should reflect kind of the humble nature of it. We will obviously have paving and a brush finish that's suitable for areas where people are for the drive-through lanes. But on the walking areas, we felt that the different colored exposed aggregate concrete really expressed the variety that we needed. Running out of time. Okay, let's go on rather quickly here then. I'm going to turn things over to Nicole Hurrian, and I will. No, we did. Quick.
Good morning, everybody. Let me get to my little area here. Okay, so here's an aerial view of the site as we look at it right now. And right now we have 8 carrotwood trees along and with a hedge along Cali Real. The carrotwood trees currently are lifting up the sidewalk. And so we're looking to improve the sidewalk as well and remove the carrot trees because of their health and what they're currently doing to the current conditions. We're proposing to remove the carrotwood trees and install 19 new trees along Calle Real, which include varieties of magnolias, live oaks, sycamores, gold medallions, and Australian willows. Here's a rendering showing the new trees along the street frontage. As you can see, we pumped it up quite a bit. Also, in terms of landscaping, your board said, look for more opportunities to add tree canopies, especially along and against the building. Maximize the canopies to reduce the heat island effect. Landscaping should maximize plant size and quantities at installation, which we did. We're adding mostly 48-inch box and 36-inch box trees to the site. Here it is again, the view from last May. And here's the new view with the additional trees added. Right now, we reviewed the trees and added additional trees that are compatible to the area as well as to the site next door, so we can resemble some sort of cohesive coherence between the two sites. The plant palettes do include a variety of low maintenance planting, grasses, succulents, and other things that are compatible to the area. In total, since last May, we've added 20 large trees and 13 which are coast live oaks. Here's a view of the outdoor patio dining area as we had it before. And here's a view of it now with the additional trees added around the building. Here you can see the landscape as it was before. And here it is now with the additional trees up against the building. Add a little bit more shade as well to the patio area. Here's the back patio area as it was before. And here it is now with the additional trees. We're proposing 7 new species of trees. And again, as I mentioned, different shrubs, succulents, and drought tolerant plants. We also added 2 new trees within the sidewalk here with tree wells, so it adds additional shading along that parking area. And next, I would like to bring it back over to Russell, if that's okay.
Let's try and wrap up here, but go ahead.
Okay, so comment was to restudy the bright white color, and you have the board there in front of you that you can see the varieties of colors. And the other thing I'd like to note is that this principal facade is the north facade. It will be in shade most of the time. Right, so continue here. Just trying to scroll through the things that are important. We provided photometric study, which complies with the guidelines and as well as current Title 24, 2022 standards. These are some renderings at dusk so you get an idea of how those lights will work. And then we have some issues about the signage, both the flag and the pole sign that's proposed to replace the current IHOP sign. The sign is, can you go back to, the one where the section real quick? Yeah. So the sign needs to be 30 feet maximum from the center line of Calle Real. As you can see, it will be 25 feet. That makes it 25 feet from its base in this section. I believe this is rendered incorrectly, just so for your information. It actually should be 5 feet shorter. So go on. Sign from behind the building. There is a that we should read. Okay, the next comment. We're not terribly well coordinated. Like going backwards. Was to restudy the parking, number of parking spaces proposed and why it is so much higher than the minimum required. Project is still very much vehicle oriented. And this is an architectural review board. We can address the design issues, planning issues aside. We have made several changes. We're going to be replacing the sidewalk along Calle Real, the one that's been torn up, lifted by the Carrotwood. We've added bike lanes. We've added substantial number of bicycle parking spaces, racks. We're looking at substantially reducing the number of parks, 92 parks with the IHOP, and it will be approximately half of that with the Chick-fil-A. Now this is so yeah, so this parking, we're at 49 spaces and 71.6 impervious. So we have added a ton more landscaping, a lot more trees. Shading is a very important aspect of this to make it more pedestrian friendly. Can we go on? Oh, just another 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'd like you to talk about we have some comparisons here with in and out that we'd like to.
Yeah, we don't need to see that. I think
Okay.
let's just, we want to see what's different from the last time, really.
Okay.
And it looks, I mean, can you kind of maybe do a broad stroke explanation? It looks to me like the site plan hasn't changed at all, that you've added trees, right? And a few minor other modifications. Is that fairly
That
accurate?
pretty much sums it up.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. All right, let's bring it back to the board then for questions. Mr. Verdiak. Microphone.
Question. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Member Peugeot.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
That parapet you mentioned is tall, like how tall is the parapet from the roof up to the top of the parapet?
It's approximately 7 feet.
7 feet.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Our tallest RTU is about 6.5 feet. just to let you know.
And the white color is hard to see inside. Is there a name for that color, like Arizona white or Navajo white or some kind of a thing?
It's more of a, gosh, what's the one that I always used to use? It's definitely brighter than a Navajo white.
Okay.
Its reflectivity is about 84%, something like that.
Okay. And the landscape question, the height of the hedge on the, I mean, it's not a hedge, but the planting along the front property line, there's a series of bushes. What would be the height of those?
The tallest one can get up to around 4 or 5. So I try to layer rather than doing one single hedge to give it more of a depth effect, I guess you'd say.
What kind of species are you talking about along the frontage?
There's rosemary along the front. We have different
The upright or the ground cover?
upright. Yeah. I tend to try to stay away from ground cover.
Okay. And what else?
There's a variety of grasses as far as the Muhlenbergias. I had some miscanthus in there. There's also a few purple reed grass, kind of all around different succulents as far as a few agaves and aloes for the bottom accent areas.
A comment, a question on the canopies. You have like the pedestrian canopy has the supports on one side. Is that a desire to, a stylistic thing? Is that what you're aiming for? Or is there a necessity to only have supports on one side?
This is stylistic.
All right, thanks. Oh, Mr. Chair, we need a sign presentation as well, but I suggest that we go through the architecture first and then we go through the signage.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Member Frosher?
Yeah, I have a question. It didn't seem like you quite answered it the way we were looking for. Consider thickening canopy edges. Now, did you do that?
I did consider it, yes.
You
but-
considered,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have said consider.
Okay.
Because they look thin, but, okay, so they didn't change.
There, yeah, the canopies are, I believe, around 10 inches.
Yeah.
thick. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Member Richards, questions?
So did the number of parking spots stay the same from the initial?
They stayed the same. We do have designated employee and we've allotted a number of spaces for mobile order pickup.
But the number of spots could be reduced.
I'm sorry.
The site is overparked. Is that correct? Like you,
The site has more parking than is required.
By how many?
24 parks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, just considering item D, the way the comments were carried, it says currently the board feels the project does not reflect the architectural character of the area. I was the member that spoke most about that, at least initially, and what, I'm not sure if the comment really carries the point I was trying to make, nor what, what I commented on previously was that I thought the architecture seemed a bit corporate. And it seemed like a building that could go anywhere in the world, or at least anywhere along Highway 101 for that matter. And I'm supportive of your contemporary architecture, but my question is, you know, what I really, the point I originally made was how to take your contemporary architecture and tie it to the regional character of this area. So contemporary architecture that's regionally specific was what I was getting at. So tell me, what have you done since the last time we came to you, or last time you came to us to address that comment? Because you briefly mentioned it, but I don't see. I'm curious what you think the current, like, it's not, certainly not a comparison to the In-N-Out Burger joint, which is a kind of my stands to kind of represent what I'm, at least what I'm against seeing here. So I don't think that's a useful comparison. What have you done architecturally to make this regionally specific contemporary architecture with a unique solution that's site specific and not, yeah, I'm not against having any corporate identity. I think that's great, but it needs to be, in my mind, balanced. So I want to know what you're doing to address that.
Okay, let's start with the orientation of the building. The building's used as in essence, a wall. It shields the drive-through because we know that we want to downplay the car culture.
I'll just stop you there. I'm not concerned about the mass, bulk, and scale, the height, the site orientation. I think the way you've configured it, use the site, how you've set it up are fine. So it's really going to get down to detailing and architectural character. Like, why do you use a flat roof and not a slope roof? Why, you know, those kind of issues are what I'm getting at. What is it that you're doing that it's an attempt to bring it around to a regionally specific, unique architectural design?
Okay. Well,
for this particular area.
All right. So let's start with, it's not a corporate design, for one. It's.
So the question is, what is it about that makes it look like a building in Goleta or in the Santa Barbara County? Or in a rural, you know, we have all kinds of things to draw from. You got a agricultural character, we have, you know.
But it's not an agricultural building.
I know,
Okay,
so that's just an example. So what is it that you're doing that makes it regionally specific? Like, what have you used any of our regionally specific materials?
Well, certainly the stucco, the smooth drop stucco is regionally specific. And if you look at the traditional buildings in town, they don't have reveals all over them. There's not a single aluminum reveal on a traditional building. Didn't exist, right? This is minimal reveals. The white is quite consistent. If you walk around Santa Barbara, anywhere in Santa Barbara County, you'll see that white. I don't want to make it, you know, the white castle on the hill that's blinds you, which is the reason why we put predominantly white on the north facade. We made it outside building with the seating that's tucked in underneath, like a sidewalk cafe, of which there's many in Santa Barbara. We use the tile and we use it as a display. It's a traditional Spanish tile. Actually, it's Spanish and Mexican heritage. So that particular pattern is 700 years old. The colors, the olive colors, the drabs that we've used contrast nicely with that white. It makes it bounce. We've got some lighting there tucked inside, which is low intensity lighting that makes the building glow at night, which is one of the most fantastic things about Santa Barbara buildings. They often have very large windows, which allows you to see into the interior of the building. They're well illuminated. The canopy is more of a modern element, obviously modern style. I keep it thin because you don't read it as a thin edge. You read it as a plane from underneath. We've done many of these canopies in my practice. They're quite gorgeous. They're very well crafted. We have our sign makers make them. They're not made in the field. They're rendered as metal canopies. And in this case, we have a material underneath it, which is a recycled material that has a nice warm feeling that you often find with the eaves underneath the Spanish building when they're not painted a dark color.
So again, what have you done since the last visit to address that comment differently than you're talking about a lot of things that you presented last time. So what has changed since the last time we saw it? Just look, it's a specific question. What have you done since the last time we saw this to address that comment? Like, tell me what's different about it today than it was the last time I saw it in respect to my comment. If there's nothing that's changed, that's a fine answer. I just want to know if you've done anything to make adjustments to address that.
No, because
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was my question.
No additional questions for me other than the second one, going back to the number of parking spaces and why is it so much higher than the minimum required?
When the pandemic hit, we learned a lot about how our parking lots could be used and about the drive-throughs. We went to a double drive-through to help with throughput. But there will be a certain number of people who are going to go through that drive-through, park and eat their lunch. We found that with our other restaurants, this is an appropriate number of parking spaces.
Russell, may I chime in? I'm Sarah Bronstad with Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. I'm the land use planner. I just wanted to get to a couple of slides that we kind of breezed through because of trying to save time. But essentially last time when we were here, if you remember in May, we had concerns raised about traffic from the drive-throughs. We have Starbucks and In-N-Out very close by. Obviously, we're very aware of the issue, and we think that doing the minimum required number of parking spaces of 25 is not going to be enough. It's not going to meet the demand. It's going to contribute to traffic problems that already exist. So the goal here is really to design the site to accommodate the demand, not create a traffic issue, keep flow going well. There are pretty strict policies in the Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan that are more restricted than other jurisdictions. So I think even just what's in place in terms of policy is to help prevent traffic issues. So the project has been designed. We've used 2 traffic engineers to study this. So there's definitely been some attention. In-N-Out Burger, if it only had the minimum required, I don't know the exact number, but being a similar site, if they only had 25 parking spaces, this is where it would be. So imagine what the traffic problem would be if they only had the minimum required. So the goal here is to find the perfect balance of, accommodating the neighbors' concerns about traffic, and having a site where not only can you accommodate the traffic for customers parking, but also for the drive-through. And frankly, we have this other slide that shows how In-N-Out with their situation is a little under capacity. I mean, they're having to use temporary measures on a permanent basis, essentially, to help. And this in and of itself creates some traffic flow problems on the property. So we're trying to design, think ahead, avoid that situation.
Got it. Thanks. So any other last minute questions? We gotta move along here. Okay, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please, did you fill out a speaker slip by chance? That's okay. Come on up. You can do it after.
Mr. Chair, I was hoping to just jump in here real quick before we start public comment. Just as a quick reminder to public commenters that this is this board is a aesthetics review board. So if they could try to focus comments on what's within the purview of this board, which is aesthetics. And then if they have comments that are more related to the planning commission, like traffic concerns, that's definitely something that can be reviewed by the planning commission.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And ma'am, your name for the record?
Lisa Kenyon.
Okay, Lisa, 2 minutes when you're ready.
All right. Appreciate what the last speaker just mentioned. If you gave me 2 minutes, I would talk about the traffic related issues because that's what the public comments are all about. Just to let Chick-fil-A know, I think I can speak for most of my neighbors in saying that the architecture, the landscaping, that looks great. My biggest frustration at this point is the traffic study still has not been completed. And 2 incomplete applications have been presented. Appreciate what the SBAR is doing, but we really want to be able to talk about the elephant in the room. And if we need to wait for the planning commission, I completely understand that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, back, seeing no other hands and no one in the audience, back to the.
A question to that. So this is going to the planning commission because
So, I see Willow is in intention just seeing if she is available, but, there's a CUP associated with this permit, so it would only come to the SBAR for comments.
Okay, so.
That's correct, yeah.
So it will be ready for preliminary, goes to PC, then comes back for preliminary and final. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you want to get us started with comments, Mr. Peugeot?
Right, great, so, yeah. Yeah,
Joe's cute, but.
Or maybe one of the perspectives is also good too. No, this is, if you go to the perspective, one of the perspectives, I think is, yeah, keep going. No, go to the perspective drawings, like the aerials, and there are some very nice renderings, so that. Yeah, I like to go to the perspective. I like to because the there are those things. Oh, there we go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There's some from above that are more, yeah, like that. That's a good one to talk about. Great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I like many of the things I've seen. I think the project is evolving well. I like the materials. I like the tile at the walls, the inclusion of tile, the wood and the kind of the underside, the colors and the materials in general. The palette of materials and landscaping is good. I have some issues with the side Bolton scale and the aggressiveness of the design. The applicant mentioned the word humble. I wish this project was a little bit more humble. And the parapet, the size itself, the height. I mean, I understand that, and maybe you do the mechanical equipment may be 5 or 6 feet tall, but you'll never see it from the ground. With even a 4-foot parapet would block that. Having a 7-foot parapet, it seems excessive. It seems like it could be reduced. I will talk to the science later on. Regarding the colors, I think the white could be toned down. The comment made about the appropriateness of the local character. I think all these cantilevers are maybe more. I mean, it will be the only place we have in the county. I don't think they have anything like this any place else. So I understand where the approach. I think it's very well designed. I wonder if it really fits. It's what there are some minor tweaks to the architecture, the thickening of the fascias, the thickening of the wide flange beams that will add to it. the local architecture is based on mass. So the mass spaces, they're fine. Sometimes, most often we recess the windows in order to create a sense of mass. And that's why the comment on the spindly columns and the thickness, that type of thing, I believe that could be improved. Regarding the landscaping, I think there's a concern to block some of the sea of parking behind the landscaping. Some of the trees, you're bringing more trees, you're presenting more. That is good, and they have some oaks and sycamores and all these tall trees, and that's really wonderful. I think some more screening from from Calle Real would be a welcome thing, more like not necessarily hedge, but something that grows to 5 feet or so. So you don't see the cars as you drive by. You can see there will be some gaps. You will see you will not miss the building. The building is large. The signs are large. So that would be something I would like to see. I like the light, your lighting, and the landscape in general is fine. I believe there's a lot of parking, a lot of paved areas. If there are any way to expand the pedestrian, the eating areas, the places where are not made for vehicles, that would be another way to improve this project, which is that item K. Increase areas of diverse hardscape materials to enhance pedestrian zones. It was there before. G was plantings along street frontage should be large enough to screen parked vehicles. We mentioned that before. We studied the bright white color. I mean, some of the things we mentioned them already. So I would like to to have the project keep moving in that direction. Regarding the comments, you've done some. I think more should be done. And the signs, well, and the flag and all that. We need to review that next step.
Okay, Mr. Verdiak.
Well, I still object to the bright white color. I think that I know you have a sort of a corporate responsibility, but I was hoping that we might be able to have some sort of a compromise on the color. It's not our corporate image here in Santa Barbara. And I think that the building is too tall. If you have a 7-foot parapet, how high is your mechanical equipment? It's 4 feet, 5 feet, maybe. I think 2 feet could be cut off the parapet to reduce the scale of the building.
There's some equipment that's 6.5.
There is.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say something at this point?
We'll just let John finish.
So anyway, that would be.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say it's kind of hard to hear John's comment. John, if you could speak directly into the mic. That would help.
Well, anyway, I objected to the height of the building. I was hoping it could be reduced, the parapet could be reduced. And also the bright white color is not, I don't think is compatible with, Santa Barbara. I mean, that's part of our responsibility is this neighborhood compatibility. And so we understand, I mean, your work is excellent. That's not the question. And but I still think that the color needs to be restudied and modified, in my sense, quite a bit. So that would be my comments.
Okay, Member Frosher.
I want to state my agreement with some of these earlier comments. For the color, yes, absolutely. I think it needs to be darker. And just to help clarify, downtown Santa Barbara has a historical character of white plaster buildings, but this is not in downtown Santa Barbara. This is kind of on the outskirts, and buildings on the outskirts need to get toned down. So the whiter white really doesn't work well here. It's a beautiful color on the color board, but it will read white in the sunlight. So it needs to step down. I agree that the parapets should try to be lower. I don't know what your mechanical complications are, but 7 foot of parapet seems like a lot. In terms of those canopies, on the hardline elevations, they really read too skinny. 10 inches on a building of this scale reads too small to me. I think it's a nice detail and design. I really like the wood understory of it, but it doesn't look strong enough for the amount of volume that it's trying to cover. And that leads me to, the landscape is going to be so important on this project, because I think the better the landscape, the more people will come and actually stay. And the drive-through component, you can watch in and out, it's lined up, the engine's idling. It's not a great thing. And I can even support your over parking if you're gonna make the rest of it work so that people will come and stay there. And that means protecting the outside diners from the cars that are circulating around there. So, it looks really nice in the rendering, but what's it gonna be like to sit out there? And that's why nobody sits outside at In-N-Out unless it's 2 in the morning and they're, high school kids. Because it's not a nice place to be. This can be a nice place to be. And it's got a lot of potential for that. So, but I think there's the conflict between pedestrians and cars. And you need to keep screening, protecting the pedestrians, like along the back of the main canopy, outdoor dining, have some kind of protection from the cars. And getting back to the enhanced paving, I think that's really a way that you can support your over parking, is by making more effort in enhanced paving and in creating different borders, whether it's along some of the parking areas or more pedestrian crossways, so that you just cut up the big sea of asphalt and make it interesting. Yeah, I guess that about wraps it up. I agree with the landscaping being brought up more along the sidewalk to screen it even more. And I really believe that if you do the landscape really well, it will become a dramatically popular place. I know people line up and like to sit in their cars, but I think it could be something more than that if you do this site planning correctly.
Thank you. Member Richards, comments.
Okay, so I'm gonna touch on the landscape items. So there's a comment here, the plantings along the street frontage should be large enough to screen the parked vehicles. So I appreciate the additional trees that have brought in along the street frontage, and I agree with the comment that there could potentially be an introduction of, in a few spots, some taller planting that would help to hide some of the parking. I don't think it's appropriate to hedge, put in, tall plant material along the entire edge of the parking. It would just make the site feel like walled off by planting, but maybe in a few spots, your plant palette could include a few taller shrubs that would help to kind of soften, in addition with the trees that have been proposed and added in. So I appreciate the way that the trees are brought in. I appreciate the way that you brought in the trees along the patio outside of the building. I think that's helpful to kind of soften the architecture a little bit. I will agree with Val's comment that potentially there could be like an architectural feature, like a wall or something to help to make that feel like a little more protective of a space. Can I see the laser?
Yeah. See why not?
And then, can we go to the landscape plan? I think it's sheet 11. All right. Maybe go down one more to the nice rendered one. So I think there's a missed opportunity to try to get some type of seating over in these areas. I mean, you've got this bike parking area. It's got 3 bike spots. To me, it's a really inefficient use of space. I mean, couldn't there be a little patio that's in here that could also fit your bike spots? And, you know, put 5 tables over here and make this feel like, you know, you're putting all this effort into having a nice landscape. Maybe there could be an experience of dining in the landscape. So it's not just, you know, right now, all of this it's tight up against the building. I understand there's probably some management issues about having people over here, but I think you're missing an opportunity with the layout of the site. And, you know, I was asking how many parking spaces there need to be. I mean, if some of these parking spaces could be reconfigured, I mean, could there be a nice landscape dining spot over here? You know, why is it all going to be compressed right into this spot? I mean, look at how this site is used. It's like this little sliver of it is dedicated to the restaurant and dining, and the rest of it's just circulation and parking and some really nice landscaping. But maybe we need to, yeah, maybe there's an opportunity to try to bring some of those pieces out. On the plant palette, I will say that I recommend to be careful where you use the agave Americanas. I saw they're out by the sidewalk, and that's a problematic thing in Santa Barbara's having sharp agaves right by sidewalks. And then I guess we're gonna comment on the signage separately.
Okay, Mr. Bloomer.
So I would start by saying, you know, this is as a comparison to the other projects in the neighborhood that you showed, I would say this is a better version of what we're looking at with the Starbucks building. Or I don't think that's what it's called, but the building that Starbucks is in right now, that sits on the corner of the intersection. We reviewed that project. It's a kind of a neat contemporary scheme, but it kind of overpowers the site, and it doesn't have any complements around it. It's kind of, you know, sticks up pretty aggressively, and it's in a street intersection. So I suppose it's not, doesn't offend, I think, the neighborhood too much, but it would be better if it had more trees and landscaping around it to kind of balance it. Whereas I think this project is a better version of that. It's a nice contemporary design. So now we've got 2 properties within, you know, spitting distance of each other that are kind of setting up a vocabulary of contemporary architecture. And this in terms of a site scheme, you know, and use of the site, you know, it's a large site with a relatively very small building on it. And it is what it is with the parking. So I don't have a concern about the over parking at all. I think the landscaping is extraordinarily well done. I think that's an absolute gift to the neighborhood. If it's executed the way it's being presented, I think it's should be just complimented. I know there's fine tuning that the landscape architects will guide you on with their concerns, but in a general sense, I think the way it's laid out, the way it's being used, you know, for what kind of program you have, the way you've done it, I couldn't dare try to do it better than what you've done. So I think it's well done. I think it's going to be, I don't even think it's a fair comparison to compare this to the In-N-Out Burger site. It's not even in the same ballpark. This is way more considerate and probably more balanced in terms of what you see and what you get from the different vantage points up the 101 or driving down Calle Real for that matter. I agree with just on the site. I was kind of harping on this, like, how does this thing fit into Southern California, or more specifically our region? And I think some of the points the architect made today, help me understand their thinking about it. I think one of the bigger ones that sticks out in my mind is the amount of outdoor dining area in the outdoor program, which is definitely a unique characteristic of this region, that we can do this indoor outdoor kind of concept. And I think that there should be, if it's possible, an introduction, and I think Val brought this up, is that, it would actually make this a nicer project. I think if there was a couple other remote areas where you could, water your dog and, have a dining experience, I think, where Mr. Richards pointed out. So I would study that. In terms of the architectural character, that I previously discussed and that we've been discussing, from the detailing standpoint, I think the awnings are at 10 inches. That's about right. I think if they go larger, it looks like somebody's not detailing them correctly. So I don't mind the pipe columns and I think once we see the detailing come before us, I think we'll be satisfied with where you're headed with that. I made a previous comment. There's an image that shows the awning that I think sits over in same tangent or same alignment with that kind of walkway. It goes across. I don't know if you go one of the other renderings. I can't get it to download on my sheet, so I'm not sure which page it is. Towards the bottom. Maybe it's easier to show the perspectives. It's a minor comment. Right there. Now keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's probably in the aerial view. Keep going. There you go. Right here. I would like to see this face of this awning get more purchase on this particular volume. Just maybe if it extends out and hooks around and grabs it a little bit, kind of the way this little piece is. I just think that would be integrate it more with the architecture instead of it having alignment. That's a very minor point. As in terms of the height, like I'm not a big fan of buildings that cower in the face of height restrictions. I think architecture should be balanced and proportional. I think if you study the elevation for this building, you start squashing it down, it just ruins it. From a mass bulk and scale standpoint, from the size of the site, the amount of landscaping, how it's nestled down from the freeway, and all those things. I just can't get behind any argument that the building's too tall. It's not a very large building, and it really should be studied from a standpoint of proportions. I mean, it's cool to try and hide mechanical equipment, and we should do that, but ultimately the architecture has to work. And if you look at this in elevation, it looks right to me, and I don't think it's too tall. There's maybe some room for some more articulation between the two larger volumes. Maybe you could drop one down, create more kind of cadence in the, instead of a modulated look. But I think if you get down on the ground, look up at this building, it's for what it is, it's the right size. So I can't get behind that. I'm supportive of the height of the building and the mass and the bulk of it and the way it's done. I was initially not too wild about all the white paint. We don't like to see bright colored buildings on our hillsides or in like kind of rural or scenic areas because they kind of stand out. So we've been trying as a board, like guide people to use more natural colors to kind of camouflage things and get them more nestled in. This is next to a freeway on a commercial corridor. So I don't know how punitive we need to be about that. I think there was a comment that, this is not the El Pueblo Viejo district. It's not downtown Santa Barbara or anything like it. It is out in the rural kind of Goleta area. And so I think it's worth studying to maybe tone it down a bit, like maybe create a couple volumes that aren't all white. I don't know, but I think I'm going to just stay neutral on that point, but I think most of the board wants to see it darker. The other thing is you're probably going to have Reglet details in this that are going to enhance the contemporary quality of it. So when it comes back, make sure that that's well detailed on the elevation so we can see how those are going to be laid out. I think they're going to further make the building look interesting so that it's not going to be just a big blank white wall. There's going to be some patterns in there, I think, from, if I'm not mistaken, or at least if you're considering not doing that, I think you're gonna have a lot of cracking and problems with the maintenance of it. So I would encourage you to put a reglet in each facade and then make that pattern interesting. I think it will help the character of the building and probably bring the scale down and help people. And it might create opportunities for some panels of different color. I don't know. Maybe the base of the building could be darker, top of it could be lighter. There's things that those reglets can help you with that I would study. And then getting back to the regionally specific kind of materials and tying it in to the character look of the region. I think the indoor-outdoor quality of the building is a big factor in my thinking. So I definitely agree with you about that. And I would just say, we could talk about that a lot, and I don't want to drag anybody through more discussion on that, but so I want to be really specific about one thing. The tile, the tile feature wall that you have, I think is a really good opportunity to kind of do what I'm asking for, is to tie it into the region. What I'd like you to study is find a tile that has some local connection, like perhaps a local artisan or something that's actually genuinely unique to this region. The tile that you have is a pretty trendy, generic kind of Pinterest tile that I've seen a gazillion times in every hipster hotel and bar and restaurant and hotel lobby in the last few years. And that tile could show up anywhere. But I think if you put some effort into a tile wall that was interesting, or if you reached out to one of the local art programs or schools and had some participation of youth, putting something together for you could do a lot with that. But I think if, between here and Ojai, there's some pretty specific artistic people that could maybe help you do something a little bit more of the community. And I think that might be enough. I made the original comment to try and push you to try and do something that is more unique in terms of architecture. The style of the building is just, it's an anywhere building. So anything more you can do to enhance the local character of it, bring regional materials in, like, usually the easiest way to do that is sandstone or tile, or think about a color palette that makes sense, or, using wood siding or simulated wood siding or corrugated materials. I don't know. I mean, I think Alex's point about keeping it simple is right on. So I don't want to push on any of those things. I think just find me some better tile for that tile wall and I'll get behind your project 100%.
All right. I don't really have anything to add. I think a lot of it was covered. I think some of the biggest things for me were, the paving. You did vary some of the paving, but it's all just concrete. So there's some other element I think needs to happen in there, whether it's some kind of different tile on the ground plane, if it's just for the dining areas or whatever. And then I think Josh touched briefly on maybe varying the heights even slightly for the elements on the building. If the 6.5 foot equipment could be grouped into the smaller section, then maybe the whole other part can be lowered a little bit. I think that would help, just throw it off a little bit. But beyond that, I don't have much else to add. So we do need to look at the signage.
I think for the I hear a lot of different comments, and I think they need to be organized. Some kind of consensus, I hear a consensus on color, paving, parapet variation, and landscape and calle real. I think we all talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So those are the comments that should go.
So Joe, do you want to have us try and say this more succinctly, or do you want to read back what you have and gain some direction?
Yeah, so I can read back what I have. I think that might help. It's not in perfect order quite yet because we've kind of been jumping around a little bit. But in general, I think the two questions I have so far is that it seems like there's disagreement between the board about the size, the mass, bulk, and scale. And then also I think the thickness of the canopies. So maybe we can kind of, I guess we can focus on that while I go through these. So I'll go ahead and start. Just jump in if there are any comments.
Okay.
Canopy colors and materials are appropriate. Restudy bright white color to tone it down. Study use of riglets, and I didn't actually get exactly if there was any more to that comment.
I think that's fine. Or just say study use of riglets in the plaster exterior finish.
Okay. And plaster of exterior finish. Okay, great. Thank you. For mass, bulk, and scale, there are concerns with mass, bulk, and scale of design. Height of building and parapet should be reduced. One member disagrees and considers the mass, bulk, and scale to be appropriate.
Okay, maybe, I mean, quick straw vote, who feels that the mass, bulk, and scale is appropriate? 2. All no's?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, and
so-
that they can study ways to vary it. I mean, that's part of that comp too.
That's why I made that comment, because I don't think just this board should just say, make your building less tall. I wanted to give a tool to the applicant, Mr. Chair, that, that maybe.
Yeah, I don't
'cause
think,
that gives them the ability to screen things, but also articulates the height, and I don't know.
sure, so I
Right.
think a little massaging, I don't think anybody said, oh, the building's just too tall and that's it. So there's some,
Parapet variation or something like that, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good comment.
so consider varying the height of the elements in a greater.
I'll offer something specific, Mr. Chair. This volume right here, if it's at all possible to make that lower than this volume here. Like,
Or vice
and
versa.
not lower than this, like take the line between this, shaky ass.
I thought you were doing that on.
It's just too much coffee and not enough food. Anyway, between those two, you get it, right? But this, what do you call this volume, sir? The drive-through parapet? Yeah, if you get that between the brown volume and the main volume, that doesn't. It's a little-
I have a question, comment on regulates. Traditionally, they are not used in EPV, right? I mean, I know buildings crack and so forth, and
They're kind of required in the building code now around
Yes.
maintaining.
I know they're required, but somehow.
They're gonna happen. It's a corporate building. You're gonna do like an EFS system, or they're not gonna do, I don't think they're gonna do lath and plaster. And if they do, it's gonna crack. And it's gonna be
Anyway,
an
okay.
ongoing maintenance issue. I mean, it's a corporate building. Unless
Well,
unless the applicant has another information, but I'm assuming.
Let's just leave the
They're gonna
comment
do
where it
it.
is and we'll see when they come back with their details, how that gets addressed. Joe, please continue.
Okay, so just to clarify, so the comment right now I have is back to mass, bulk, and scale. Concerns with mass, bulk, and scale design, study ways to vary height of elements. I kept it a little broad. Was there anything more specific?
I think that seems
That's good.
good.
Okay, next is one board member believes the thickness of canopies should be increased. One member disagreed.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at that. Can you go to the 2D elevations? And maybe we should just vote on it because it's not clear to the applicants what to do.
Yeah, and if there's a detail or wall section,
I mean, to me, that was
it.
good where you were. Yeah, right there. To me, that looks too small. And it may only be a couple of inches more, but it's too small. So take a vote.
Of course, then, I mean, you never see it in 2D either, so it's.
Yeah, but you
just to
walk up
balance,
to it, you're
just to
gonna,
balance our two comments,
Yeah.
how about we just carry forward a comment to study the detailing and come back with a wall section or a detail of how you intend to do your.
I think we can do a quick vote
Yeah.
to
But I mean, you know, if it's 10 inches, it's like that
over
on a building that's,
22 feet.
yeah, it's small.
Yeah, but you wouldn't use, it's gonna be done with a C channel or a steel beam, or it's
Right.
meant to look kind of industrial or agricultural.
Sure.
A 12-inch beam would hold up like a 15-story building. This is a shade device. Should only be like 6 or 8 inches, but it needs to be scaled proportionate to the building. But 12 inches, that's getting pretty crazy.
Well, let's just take the vote. So, to thicken, raise your hand.
Man, I would like to see more detail on the canopies. To me, they're modern, but they're also conflict with the local modern direction that some members have expressed. I think the single column in the center, you know, I don't see how that.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we ask them to study it and come back with more detail.
Okay, well, we're clearly divided.
I don't
So,
think, I don't.
Joe, next comment?
So are we just saying maybe there's disagreement on the board on this item? How do we want to?
Disagree. We, we simply have differing opinions.
Okay, so maybe some board members believe.
Yeah, and I think Josh's comments is valid too. Some board members feel it should be thickened, return with additional detailing to analyze further.
Yeah, return with additional detailing. Okay. Great. Okay. The next comment I have, board is supportive of contemporary architecture with corporate identity, but lacking connection to regional characteristics. Consider local materials such as sandstone, etc. The tile feature wall is appreciated. Consider tile that has local connection.
I was the original maker of that comment, and I think we can settle the issue of regionally specific materials. I think I'm giving them more specific direction today to go to use their tile accents, but get the tile out of a kind of a generic finish to something more artisan and something more local, or something higher finish.
Okay.
But
I agree with that.
the other
and-
point
and
was
that-
the paint color, but those are the two things that I feel like are left to discuss around the regionally specific.
Yeah, and I don't think sandstone is a good option on a building like
Yeah, I
this.
agree.
It'll look tacked on,
I think
but a local tile is good.
I want to go back to what Alex said about simplicity. I don't want to say anything today that's going to encourage the applicant to add more finish and detail to the building, because it's just going to add more chaos to the the building doesn't need more stuff. It's very concise, and I think Alex made a
So
good
can you
point
read
about
that again, Joe?
Okay, so I've made a couple edits. Board is supportive of contemporary architecture with corporate identity, but lacking connection to regional characteristics. Consider local materials. Tile feature wall is appreciated, however, consider local tile.
Yeah, I would just recommend we take the word corporate identity out of it and just get into specific direction around architecture and detailing. And at this point, we already made our point the last time, and it's just an opinion at this point. We need to give direction.
Okay.
Okay, I've removed that. Does the board feel like what we have is appropriate direction, or is there more detail?
No, that's good.
Okay, next comment, thickening of fascia and recessing of windows could improve design. I wasn't sure if that was an accurate comment.
Okay.
Okay, next one, landscape. This is it's kind of a lot here. Landscape palette is generally appropriate. Restudy use of agaves. I thought that's what I heard.
Restudy use of ways adjacent to pedestrian walkways.
Sharp agaves.
Okay. I'm sorry, say that again.
Sharp agaves were the concern.
Oh, okay, sharp agaves, okay, adjacent to pedestrian pathways. Okay, the next sentence I have, plantings along street frontage should be large enough to screen parked vehicles from Calle Real. That is a carry-on from the previous review. Next, I have board appreciates the way trees have been incorporated into the landscape design. And then I kind of moved on to this kind of bleeds into the next comment of the parking area. I have increased areas of diverse hardscape materials to enhance pedestrian zones. Overparking of site can be supported with integration of landscaping that creates nice outdoor dining areas that is protected from parking lot. Consider ways to enhance paving and break up large asphalt areas, such as alternate materials.
I would say
Consider architectural wall as protect. Oh, go ahead.
Don't say consider ways, just say change the material. Because it gets considered.
I'm sorry, on which part of the sentence?
The first
Change.
part, I think it was back to like the materiality. I think you said consider ways to enhance
Paving and break up large asphalt areas. So just change.
Just take out consider and just say
Enhance paving and break up large asphalt areas by using alternate materials.
yes.
Okay, that's more direct. The last one I have on this section is consider architectural wall as protection between parking lot and outdoor dining areas.
Okay.
And if there are no comments on that, the next, I have two more.
Hang on, Joe. We have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I think there was some consensus about extend outdoor dining areas beyond adjacent to building. I mean, that was a comment that Mr. Richards did, which is a good idea, trying to expand it, trying to go across the parking areas, I guess.
It's just not gonna happen though. I mean, we're
safety.
encouraging people to go through the drive-through and then park. They're not encouraging people to get out of the car.
No, but
So,
I mean, like,
It's
that
like
comment,
change once, it's not gonna change now.
you mean like,
But we
so
can- we
the
can make
comment
the
of extending it to the, what is it, to the east? You
Mhm.
think that's impossible?
Yeah, we made that comment last time. So yeah, sure, throw it in there.
So do we want to say study ways to extend outdoor dining areas across site?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other comments on this section?
I don't think so. That's it.
Okay, hearing none, I'll keep moving. Return with additional materials showing signs. I'm not sure if we're gonna have more comments on signs going forward. And then the last comment I have is lighting is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So do you have a sign presentation? It's in the set. Let's run to that. Also for those applicants who are here for items 5 through 10, we won't get to that until after lunch. So you might want to go to lunch too. So, yeah, is there a separate PDF? Oh, there you go. All right, you guys want to run us through it briefly, please?
Okay, there's a lot of signs here, some of which, you can kind of glaze over. They're pretty standard. But essentially, there's a Chick-fil-A sign on each of the 4 elevations. And there is a pole sign, as you saw in the elevations in the sections. And then also each drive-through lane would have a menu board. So because of the fact there would be 2 drive-through lanes, there need to be 2 mini boards, which triggers the need for a modification.
I'm sorry,
And
did you say that again?
because our signs are all designed to meet the ordinance with the exception, because we have more than 1 menu board, we need a modification. The menu board maximum area allowed is 36 square feet. And it's hard to get the 2 mini boards under with that allowable square footage. And if you keep scrolling, we can see the menu board. I mean, here you can see you've seen this basically, but the sign height is, again, within the ordinance allowance and just keep going.
So.
I think just,
Yeah, I think you need to describe the sizes so we can, how tall is that
There's some-
sign?
Okay.
It's 5 feet to here.
The light, the main letter is 5 feet, is that it?
Yes.
And the main chicken.
It's the main chicken.
And
And then this one.
the length is 11 feet, is that right? Is that what am I-
Yeah,
It's
11,
12 feet.
12.59 square feet.
And how many of these signs are there?
So there's 3 of this particular sign on 3 of the 4 elevations. And then on the remaining 4th elevation, it's just the chicken head.
And that's the one, the red one?
What's that?
That's the red one, right? The red
Yeah.
one. And how big is that? Is that like 6 by 6? I think so.
We have it dimensioned here.
go up
if you
1, I
keep-
think.
Right there
What's
on the
size
east
on that?
elevation. Yeah, there will be a detail if you keep scrolling. There it is.
So
So
5
5 by 5.
5 by 5.
Chicken head.
And that sign is an internally illuminated cabinet. I see. And the other one is like a neon, it's an internal, it's an LED. So can you go back to the other one? Go back, go down one more, down there, there it is. So that's just like a narrow, that's an interesting sign. It's a narrow, is that right? It's script. Huh. And it's a red facing and the LED inside. Okay. Very good.
Okay, anything else?
And then they have the pole sign. There's a pole sign somewhere in there.
That's
No, well, it's
same
not-
graphic. There you go. 10 by 10.
That's a 10 by 10 pole sign.
Okay.
And then there's a flag too, right?
It's the last line. There you go.
Yeah, it is. And how tall is that flag pole? 35-foot flag.
Okay. Questions and or comments on signage?
It's just that it's way too much and too big, too many and too large. That's, I think the most successful are the wall signs, because of the design, the way they are designed. The 5 by 5 internally illuminated, if you could do that with tile and have a light flashing on it, it would be so much more appropriate to our to Santa Barbara. Just saying, we're talking about, appropriate to the local architecture, but the panel, it's not that they are not signs like that elsewhere, but that size, 5 feet, I'm not sure how many of those we have like that, like the plastic cabinet. I think that sign could be improved by the use of materials. The 10 by 10 pole sign, I cannot support the pole sign. And I think the flag, the way it's done and the height is also another kind of signage. That's the purpose. I don't think it's a patriotic display. I think it's more like another way to say I'm here. And there's just so many signs in this place. I think it's just too many.
Okay. Mr. Verdiak?
Well, I mean, if it's 10 by 10, I think that's out of scale. But the other signs seem fine to me.
Okay, Ms. Frosher?
About the 5x5 red sign, that if it was done in different material, it would be preferable.
Is that an or reduce the size or just prefer the other material? I guess question for both of you. If it was 4x4, for instance.
I think if it was up to me, nice, it's but vinyl really, like, I mean, another plastic sign.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Just, it's a lot of signs, a sign on every wall of the building.
Okay, Mr. Richards?
Can you go to the renderings? The other sheet, the further conceptual PDF. Page 27.
And the other PDF maybe?
Well, I guess you can kind of see it here. To me, it's weird to have two of the same signs right on the same corner.
Yeah.
So.
Here?
Yeah.
If there was an opportunity to. Gotta, wish I could get you on the right sheet, but there on the other side of the building, you've got this. The chicken sign that looks like it's like kind of cut out of the base of the building. I mean, maybe there's a way of like subtly doing the sign on that narrow end where it's not two of the same things repetitive next to each other, so.
Okay.
I agree, it feels like a lot of signage, but having two of the same signs right on the same corner to me are the most striking thing that maybe are not necessary. I don't have a problem with the flag. I don't know, full sign, other people call it.
Mr. Bloomer?
So I don't have any particular issues with the signage in general, the corporate signage or the wayfinding, so forth. I think the one chicken head or your chicken logo, sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful about that. The chicken, the logo with the chicken's head on it on east elevation. It was your idea that they indent the plaster to,
Yeah.
instead of projecting out or something like that?
Yeah, well, it was
Alright.
done on the other side next to the.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, anyway, I think that's an interesting comment, but other than that, I don't have any strong opinion about the signage. With regard to the flagpole and the American flag, 100% support that. And if you want to make it taller and bigger, I support that too. Just do it right. God bless America.
I mean, what, like right here, you've kind of done that where you cut the sign into the building. Maybe you could do that on that facade where it's kind of done in a little more subtle of a way. And it's not internally lit.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything to add other than I think that's a good observation, having these two. You just don't need one here. And then, and I agree with Alex that a different material would be a better than a vinyl sign on the chicken head of chicken. So other than that, pole sign,
I think we should take a straw vote on the pole sign and the flag, so we're clear and the message is clear.
yeah, I think my comment on that would be one or the other. So, but what is are you saying the having a pole sign or not straw vote?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, those in favor of having a pole sign, raise your hand. or allowing the pole sign to remain. 2, 3, oh, great. Okay, well, we're divided on that. What, being divided?
Yeah.
All right, so, and then I guess do you want to vote on the flagpole too?
Well,
We're getting a little punchy here, we're getting hungry.
well,
Yeah, that's what I don't want to happen here. Already done that once.
well, I think it's possible to have a flag, I guess, but doesn't have to be that large. It doesn't have to be oriented towards the freeway. And I mean, to me, it's another pole sign, and that's the purpose. You know, it's done all over Southern California. It's just another signage. I don't think it has anything to do with the value of the flag itself.
Yeah.
It's the message.
And I know that as far as the pole sign goes, we've been trying to push people away from those because they are tacky. Honestly, it's not really Santa Barbara. We don't do billboards. We don't do those types of things. So I think you see the vote, we're divided, but the
Well,
encouragement would be to,
I don't know if that's accurate. We just do it well.
we don't have billboards. And we have
No.
very few pole signs.
Pole signs have been banned in Santa Barbara since 1990. I mean, they are no more, and then they've been reduced and removed. I mean, there are no pole
Talking about the
signs.
city of Santa Barbara?
Yeah, anything over 6
Just
feet
in the
tall.
city of
Yeah.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
Right,
I
on the
understand,
101
yeah.
freeway.
But it's also kind of obsolete because everybody can find what they want on their phone.
Yeah, everybody knows where they're
And,
going.
and everybody else will have already been here.
So anyway, we need to,
Except for the people that don't find things on their phone.
okay. So I think you have some very clear direction here from us. Yeah, so here for conceptual and then what? Return for further conceptual / prelim at this point? Again, you have to go to get modifications for a few things, right? Or
Yeah, I think we
sign.
get to positive conceptual comments and then they go.
I think it needs to come one more time for us to do some, do we need a preliminary before going to PC or not? Or ready for preliminary?
Isn't it ready?
So this project is a conditional use permit. So it needs to go to the decision maker before the board grants preliminary approval. So the board could choose to send it to the planning commission and have it returned back for preliminary approval following approval, or you could have it returned back for further conceptual review if you want to continue to fine tune some of the details before it goes to the planning commission.
I would say that we need to do that. We need to one more hearing. Remember what happened with the other project that we sent to PC to the staff and then with unclear direction and it came back to us, right? I think we need to, the applicant doesn't have to make the whole presentation, just address those comments one by one. And at least we have a clear direction, because otherwise the modification is not gonna go well.
Yeah, okay, so returning for further conceptual with a more brief presentation next time. Okay, thank you. All right, so it's now 12:25 and we're gonna break for lunch and come back and finish at 1:30 starting with item number 5. I think we can make that happen. Okay, thank you for your patience.